because they doesn't even matter. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I was about an hour away, and I had a blowout, and man, it was weird too, because like as I was driving, I started hearing something loud real quick, like real quick, and I'm like, "Oh, come on!" And I'm trying. It was lightning and thundering real bad, and I was going, "Come on, you got to be like, there's no way this is. It's not going down right now." You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was not good. What sucks? So it happened quick. It didn't like it all happened within like 10 seconds of like driving to like loud, loud, louder, louder. And then it was all of a sudden I could feel my rim on the
Yeah.
ground. But I didn't know what it was. I was like, man, because I've had so many flats in like trailer tires and like all the time. And it's pouring down rain. And I was in this, it was a it was right where it starts to neck down to make one lane. So like a 2-lane road, but
Yeah.
I had two on my side. So the shoulder on that deal wasn't a regular shoulder, it was like a small shoulder. So even when I got over, I was like halfway in the lane. And I was like, dang it. And I jumped out real quick and I just walked straight to the back. And I'm looking at the back, my trailer tires on my boat. And I'm like, everything's fine. And I thought maybe I was like dragging something. I'm like, man, what if, man, I've had so many things in the past do whatever. Well, anyways, uh, I look on the passenger side on my back, and there it is, and it's done. I mean, it like you can see rim and like the tires barely.
Yeah.
It's not even like it's all like loose. And I was like, crap. So I get back in there, and I'm literally like 10 feet away from this person's driveway. But even if I go into it, I can't get out of the road. And I look back to my back left, and there's one of them uh like driveways to like one of them oil rig deals. So
Mhm.
it's got a gate, but it's far enough back. But I'm still like looking up at this hill, and I'm like, man, can I get over? I was a little worried about getting over there because I'm like, I'm not on even on a tire anymore.
Yeah.
And anyways, I get over there, and then I can't, I'm spinning on the road. Like I can't even go anywhere. So I'm like, really, I have to put it in 4-wheel drive? This is stupid. So I put it on a 4-wheel drive, and I'm just hoping I can limp over there because I'm about to do this like kind of illegal U-turn in the middle of the highway. And I do it, and I get over there, and I had kind of just enough room. It was funny, right when I stopped and put it all in there, I'm in this like hole where my tire's sitting. Like that's it, because it was raining so much that there's it's not really a driveway, it's like a rocky, it's crap. Anyways, so I had to like figure out a way to like get it on level ground. I've had so many, this is the best part. And it's gonna come, I'm making another video on how to change it. I know everyone's gonna be like, this is stupid, but I don't care. I'm still gonna do another
Yeah. Somebody might.
video on how to change a boat tire, like in case some people just don't know.
Yeah.
Um, everyone in the comments like, hey, you got to get a half inch. What do you call it? Just
Impact or something like that.
no, not well. Some told me to get a jack, right? And I have a jack, but a lug nut torque, a socket torque. But I'm like, here's the funny part about that. So I've had I went about it a different route for this reason. I talked about having my 4-way, and I have this like cheater let pipe, right? That's you can't see. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's like a 3-foot pipe, and it's my cheater
Yep.
deal. Well, everyone's like, I'll get this. So last year at Richland Chambers, when I had my trailer tire for my boat go out, or 2 years ago, I can't remember when it was. Anyways, 3 people had one. So Russell had one. It went off at this marina, and then another guy in a truck had one. See, like, look, I'm telling you, everyone, cordless impact. 3 people had one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not one of them worked.
Yeah.
Not one of them. And
Yeah.
now I didn't get on the comments and start telling everyone that, because like 90% of the comments were like cordless impact, cordless impact. Not one of them worked. And I
Yeah.
was, and so while I was there, because Russell was there with me, we were both looking at, look, there he goes. Yeah. impact socket set, and a breaker bar and a regular jack. So I have a jack. I didn't put my jack in there because I don't really worry about my jack. Like no, 9 times out of 10, I've only had a tire in my truck go out twice like this, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I just roll
But
up on the block with my trailer. Just
exactly, and I'm going to show everyone. But I have blocks, curbs. I've got. I did one the other day on a. I didn't even use it. There was a gas station, and it had this unlevel like drive up.
yeah,
I just parked it right there. I got to do all that stuff, and see. Everyone, no one, y'all are all saying this now, got to keep a 4-way. I agree. Everyone in the comments has said, get that cordless impact. I've seen them not work. The pipe works.
Yeah.
Anyway, but while we were there at Richland Chambers, I was asking these old timers that they're at this like place. I said, hey, you just got any kind of pipe or anything? And he's looking around, and I said, hey, and if I swear they had an old like stop sign pole there. And I said, hey, can I just use that? So, I brought out this like 9-foot pipe and got on that thing and freaking did it like that.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I just carry a socket that fits my truck and a socket that fits my boat. And then I have a breaker bar, and that's all I use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get it. I'm gonna like, I have a, and then like once you get it, they're like, oh, I get the cordless impact, like it's fast.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, it took me like that part of the deal wasn't.
No,
that part of the deal took me
breaking
like
the bolts off is nothing. It takes 2 seconds, even with the impact or without one.
I know. So
Yeah.
that it wasn't. That's not the issue. The issue was trying to find level ground on like none of the changing dark. It was dark, lightning, and raining, and it just made the whole process kind of miserable. Changing the tire is not a big deal. Like
Yeah.
it's not. That wasn't the. It was just kind of. It's always like where you're at is the big deal. Like
Yep.
level ground. Is there a shoulder? Can you get off of? Is there
sketchy 2-lane road, boat ramp?
Yeah, it's never like the other part. Now I did sit there and was like, I was worried. I'm not gonna lie that, and I didn't have to. I didn't have to use my pipe. I used my 4-way and got it. But yeah, it wasn't bad. It just took me a lot longer in the dark and in the rain, and then everything else.
Yeah,
It's just
it's always something.
40 minutes wasn't really that bad from the. I looked at it from the time I had the fight, but it took me like 5 or 6 minutes after I got out, looked at it all, drove back over there, parked it, got out, looked. I was in a freaking in a hole, backed it up, got where I needed to be. Then the concrete wasn't level where I put the jack. It had so I had to move it up a little bit more. Just stuff like, man, it took me like 2 minutes to put my freaking Gill rain suit on, because I was like, man, I don't feel like just getting soaked. So I was like, I put my rain suit on, I got everything out. I had to, my whole back end of my trucks like got fishing stuff in there, so I had to move all that out to get it out of the way.
Yeah, no, I feel it. But at least you found out. One time I rolled into Del Rio. I rolled in one side of my trailer, both tires were out, and I was just rolling on rims and had no idea. Like just trucking down the road with rims, and I pull up and I'm like, I look, tires are gone, solid rims, like had no clue.
And yeah, that happened. The when I told you on that gas station that I pulled up there, I was getting gas, so I was pulling in there anyways, and a trucker behind me like honked at me, and I'm like, hey man, I'm out. You're not even, because it was a 2-lane. It was 2-lane on my side, and I'm like, he wasn't even behind me, and I was like, hey, I didn't stop you. I was thinking that, and I got out. It was getting gas and kind of just. I always look back there. And I look back there. I'm like, oh, no tire, right? Well, I looked back when I made my turn into the gas station. There's my tire out there in the road, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, done that. Yeah, dude, it's always something, especially with trailers, man.
Are you talking about the pipe to loosen? Yeah, to loosen them.
Yeah,
tighten
break the nuts.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, man. That stuff,
Just have it in the truck just in case. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, especially when you're like at work in the oil field and stuff, like something would happen, you just need one tool to
Yeah.
make your life easier, and you don't have it. It sucks. You just always have that stuff in the truck.
My deal is too is like that four-way and that other deal with a pipe. I've just there's just no way. I now I'm not some mechanical nerd that knows all this, but there's no way someone's going to tell me that cheater pipe and that isn't stronger than a cordless impact. Like at some point in time, I would think that the pipe and everything is stronger. It just has to be. I mean, there's just more leverage, and there's only so much that can do.
Or your battery's dead, you don't have the extra.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
see the wheel bearings go out on trail. I had that happen back
that
in
sucks.
the day, but does that even happen anymore on the new trailers?
I don't know those volt bearings. Like I don't think so.
I haven't had
I'm
that
sure it
happen.
does. Sure, axles break and all that stuff. But usually when that happens, you're pretty screwed anyway. So
Yeah, I haven't had that happen since like
yeah,
I
like the Bubba
had
bearing,
those.
stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, in the 90s.
mm-hmm.
But I think Blake told me the other day his bearing, guys, I swear he said that his bearing went out. Was it Blake? Somebody.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. Yeah, it does. I'm sure.
But yeah, I don't hear about that much anymore at
You used
all.
to hear about it all the time. You used to carry extra hub in your truck.
Dude, you remember when I can tell you I've been driving and seen a wheel take off and like pass you down the road.
Oh yeah, I've had that happen for sure. It sucks. Like one of my buddies came home and his wheel was gone. He had no idea where it was. He just came
I
home,
saw,
everything was gone.
man, and then if it's messed up, like I can't tell you where were it? It was me, my dad. We had like paid $150 to some guy in some like kind of got lucky about some random like small town, not even a small town, like country road, and some guy was there and had. I mean, I don't even know how we used to get by back in the day, like some of that stuff.
Yeah, no cell phones, no nothing. Walking the gas station. Yeah, it's kind of easy now.
So I'll tell you this real quick. We're going to Amstead in early two. Well, my boat was a 2000, but it was probably like 2008, 9, 10, something like that. I had my old Skeeter and I was driving it. Down. I stopped. My mom lived in Houston, so I stopped at her house. When I got there, I looked at my trailer, and my trailer was really close to my tires. And I was going, that ain't right. And it was rubbing on it. And so my trailer had cracked and the fender and all this stuff. So anyways, I found these people, and I said these people because they didn't work on boats. And I drove it over there, and they didn't know what to do with it, but they had a strap and a lift, and they put straps underneath it and lifted it up, fixed it for the time being. I drive down to Amstead. On my way down to Amstead, it cracked every single the middle piece. I don't know what you want to
Yeah,
call
that kind of in between the two wheels. It goes
all of
axle,
them.
but like the actual.
All of them. Every one of them cracked.
Ugh.
And so I get down there and I load my boat on day one of the tournament, and then drive back up to this place at Amstead, dropped off my trailer, went and fished the tournament, came back, got my trailer. Like I didn't get out of there till like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, or 7. And they fixed it for the time being. But man, I had welds all over that stupid trailer.
Yeah.
And man, I was young and freaking old boat. I did good in the tournament. I mean, but I see that's what people don't understand is like I just come from it, and maybe we'll get into this today, but I just come from a different breed. So like when we did all that, everyone's like, "God, you made some money back in the day." I'm like, "No, man, I probably made like $6,000 in the tournament because I think I made a top 10, and then it all paid for like my Houston bill, and then like Amstead, and then the tournament. Like I used to walk out of the tournaments with like, I'd make a bunch of money and always be having to like fix stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I have I'll admit it. Like I have a little like I look at a little bit of these young guys, and it's not jealousy because I'm not jealous of it. I'm like, man, they just got these like they're 20 years old and they have like brand new stuff,
Yeah.
and their entire thought process is like fishing.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna go fishing today. Let's just go fishing, and they don't like. There's no really consequences or anything. Like I'm over there like trying to get boats and worried if I can even get there and all this stuff and trying to make money, not to like just for fun, or they're worried about making top tens for I guess maybe not ego, but I was over there trying to like pay weird bills and like I don't know, man. I just have a different
No, dude, I'm with you on that. I got it. Like I got like to pay my bills. Like I didn't fish in my tournaments. I got it because that's guaranteed money for me. But dude, I was like working guy trip to guy trip. I remember one time I was like, I did a guy trip. I paid rent. I was gonna go get groceries, and I ran over a knife on my truck, and had to spend that money on a tire. And like I ate ramen for a week instead of like real food. Like it
yeah.
was, I get it, dude. It's bad.
Yeah, I talk I we get into so many of these conversations. I can't really say who I get it. I mean, I get into a lot of conversations and I don't want to talk about it here because I work on some of these like videos in my head. Like I got in one the other day for like 30 minutes down the road, like out loud in my head on the way to LBJ. And I got into one and on the way back I got into another one and it dawned on me about what I want to talk about with the industry. Because what I'll do is I'll talk to like guys within the industry. When I say guys within the industry, I'm talking about like guys on the elites, um, just just so many people within the industry. I don't know how to explain it. And when we talk about things, it's hard to do it on the internet. And I've said this a bunch because if I bring up LiveScope and I bring up something negative about it or positive about it, everyone just instantly like you got to take a side.
Yeah.
There's no in between. So, and I always talk about that, but we don't do that. Most of us. I had a long conversation with one of the best fishermen ever to live in Texas. Um, I'm not even going to bring up his, but I mean, everyone on here would know who he is. And I hadn't talked to him in a while, and I was asking him something about something else, and we got into all this stuff, and he was like frustrated with it, and he was frustrated with not necessarily live scope, but with what is happening within the industry and within fishing. And I'm like, dude, I totally agree with you. And I said, I'm a little bit younger that I don't have that luxury. And he agreed. He's like, yeah, you don't have that luxury, Todd, to like get mad and pout. I was like, no, man, I was freaking spent a bunch of time. And that's why I don't really pout about it. However, I have some thoughts and these thoughts are very they're gonna come out. I'm gonna wait till a video to where I get my wording right. Um, I don't mind doing it live, but I'm just gonna wait till because if not, it'd be 20 minutes of me talking and you wouldn't talk. But I don't. I think the industry could it could go two ways, but I honestly think it's going one way, and it's maybe not the fishing industry, but the tournament fishing industry. I think they're on the brink of possibly losing a lot. And I don't think anyone wants to admit it because I know fishermen don't want to. They're scared to death. They just live in the moment. They
Yeah,
don't.
that's how I am. I'm just trying to catch them with
I
live,
know.
out live scope, whatever. I'm down.
I know. And there's nothing wrong with that. But man, I've always looked at it. I think last year that's how I was. Last year, I'm like, I'm gonna do in this to this year. I was like, I'm gonna spend every minute learning this, figuring it all out. And I did. Now, but then as I look forward, I don't have to live in the tournament industry like I used to. And so I have I mean, I probably still fish more tournaments than you a
Yeah,
year, probably most everyone,
yeah,
but I look at it in a different light and I view it differently than I think most people possibly because we live down here in Texas and I can, but, yeah, I don't know. I think they're going down a dangerous path and the fishermen, I would say the younger fishermen, it's going to be kind of a more talk to the younger fishermen. because I think they're just worried about catching them. Where'd he go? They're just worried about catching them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if they don't listen at some of this stuff, they're gonna look up. They're gonna look up and lose what they're trying to be. I know I'm being real vague, but I'm just saying. Oh, there he goes. It doesn't matter. I can still talk about it. I think the kids, I think these younger generation might not look to the future ahead. None of us did it at a young age. None of us like tried to look 25, 10, 15 years. I mean, a lot of us, like you said, in those, when I was fishing that tournament, like I was talking about, I was just trying to get through Amstead and not lose and get my boat back. So yeah, I mean, I get that, but I think we're headed down a path and it's not getting any better. Like there's no way tournament fishing on the pro side has gotten better over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't.
Yeah, it's a weird deal, dude. Like you see it more and more, especially with like the perspective deal really popping off this year. And like you think these Florida shallow tournaments are gonna, oh, you don't need a live scope now. It's like, yes, that's all you do still. So it's
so here you go. I'll give you my preview of what I'm going to talk about. And I'm not this like fishing purist, right? That like I don't get out on the water and sit around for 3 minutes to look at the sunrise and go look at the day. I mean, I'm just not. I kind of see it more when I edit my videos, and I'm like, gosh, dang, it was like, look at that, look how nice it was right there, right?
Yeah.
I kind of sometimes miss it because I got my head down and whatever. But I'll say this: is that fishing, and maybe I'm too old to think like this, but fishing at one point in time was just like fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I mean, like we grew up, and when you first started, man, it's like just catching a fish, and that's all you care about. Like nothing else is really important. And I think that that's always the case. And when you have to go deep down into it, that you can take away the boats and live scope and everything else, and really what you still have is a 10-year-old kid out there trying to catch a fish. I think that lives in all of us. And from all those times when we figured out how to catch our first bass, all of us, right? I still remember mine. I'm sure you remember yours. Then we were like, oh my gosh. And then this next time you catch one, and the next time, and then you're constantly learning and you're learning and you're learning. And you start figuring this out. And most fishermen, I would say, at some point in time, the fishing's fun. And then all of a sudden the learning starts to become more fun.
Mm-hmm.
And like figuring it out as you get older, the learning is way more fun than sometimes the catching. But when you put them together, it's like the best of both worlds, right? You figured them out and you caught them at the same time. Life's great. The only thing I would say with technology, and this isn't live scope, this is technology, is that if you stopped learning about fishing, and this is what's going on because I've heard multiple people and they don't realize they're saying this. But as we all grew up, as we all were trying to learn fishing, they're trying to learn technology. Well, those are two different things. So we grew up trying to figure everything about the fish while they're trying to figure out everything about what technology can do to help them fish.
Yeah.
And while we spent thousands of hours on baits and tackle and all these different things and like at the water and stuff, they're doing that with they're sitting out there messing with technology. And at some point in time, the substance of all these tournaments and watching and is fishing. If technology takes over that, then you lost the fishing aspect and it's more technology. I'm not against or for any of that. Because I'm going to put out a video of me doing live scoping one day of just like 100 fish catches in a row with me not saying anything and be like, I can do it. It's not that. It's just about, man, what's going to happen if technology takes over so much that the essence of fishing is gone.
Yeah. No, it's weird. I never thought I'd have like 4 grass on my boat, and a lot of people have like 5 to 6. I have 4, and it's like I feel like it's too much for me, but like I make it work. But it's coming on hard, dude. And I think people are starting to realize like it's dominating everything.
Yeah, and there's like I said, there's going to be people that talk about the other focus. You know, I mean, I don't think. See, and I don't. So look, the only thing I'll say about that is this about his comment. 3 years ago, when LiveScope or none of this was around, we spent a little bit of time on side imaging and stuff like that. But I mean, it was still based a lot about fishing. What I'll say is this is that everyone's so focused on LiveScope. I'm not focused on LiveScope. I never had a problem with LiveScope. The difference is in 3 years, we went from no one caring to the biggest debate in fishing that's ever been in 3 years. All these people are so focused on LiveScope, could care less, man. Y'all think that's going to be the end? I already know it's not. I don't. It's not like I have a little birdie on my shoulder telling me it's not. Are y'all crazy? Y'all, if y'all think that's the end to be end all, y'all are crazy. It's going to like I said, it's going to be so much technology that fishing is not really what it is. So y'all can sit there and say that, but I'm just telling y'all, anyone in the industry, just start looking around. We also had $35,000-$40,000 boats 10 years ago. Now we have 80,000, like you said, guys with 9 graphs. Y'all, if y'all think this is where it stops, y'all are crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna keep going. But
oh, I'm sorry. Hey, okay. Maybe I should have not said you. I meant the industry. Okay, yeah, Sean. So I agree. That's you're right, Sean. That's why I didn't want to go on you yet, because sometimes tech commenting is tough. I get it. 100%. So he's right.
yeah,
The industry is what the industry, but see, the industry that does the same thing, they get tied up into what's here and what's now because they got to make a quick dollar. And I'm not being, that's with the tackle industry, that's with this stuff, everything.
Yeah.
BASS. I've had a talk with BASS. They're scared to death to like change anything because they want to be, they're like, I don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers. I mean, this goes on all over the country with anything, right? They just try to stay the path. I'm just telling y'all, if it was me, I would be like, guys, y'all stay the path. You're going to go down a road and you can't come back from. And I'm just telling you, you're close. You're close to going down that road. And once it goes down there, I'm telling you, the fishing won't stop. All of us, we could care less. I don't care if the elites or the BPT or any of that stuff still goes on. I can't believe I'm ever going to say that. But if all that falls apart, guess what? I still get to go fish. It doesn't change any of these people in the comments. None of these guys in the comments are fishing the BPT of the elites either. So they're going to go on and still catch fish. But I think that upper end tournament style, they better watch it. Because I mean, it'll get to where it's not that big of a deal anymore.
Yeah. And well, Tyler Stewart won West Point without it, so that was cool.
Well, I mean, I think everyone was going to get to. I think everyone at St. John's was gonna. I mean, you could tell right then and there. Now, perspective mode played a part, but it's. So I watched y'all's event. So I fished LBJ Friday and Saturday. So I didn't watch anything Friday and Saturday, right? Because I was fishing, and then I turned on Sunday when I got home Saturday night. Sunday I turned it on. And I knew everyone was catching smallmouth. Last time I was at Kentucky Lake, I caught all smallmouth. This was before LiveScope. So, and I've been there a bunch in April. So I know how to catch the largemouth up there shallow, and it's fun. Like I loved it in April.
I did a day of it in practice, and it was fun. I just get any big ones, but yeah, it was fun. It was cool.
Did you go up shallow? Like
yeah, you fish in yellow flowers. There's some bushes in the water, not good.
Really?
Yeah, it was like I found bushes in the water, but I mean, like I'd flip in there, and when the fish would bite, you'd see mud. You'd see like the cloud. It was shallow.
When I frog fished there were certain places. There were certain places that I've got like a couple of places that like I spent a long time like driving up and down that whole entire lake looking for it. And I heard so when I turned it on, Rob Newell was there talking, and they were perspective mode because I didn't know how y'all were catching smallmouth, and I was like, man, they're out there on them bars doing it.
Yeah.
I caught smallmouth, but it was closer to the bank. I wasn't really out. I don't know how far off the bars they were from it, but
I mean, I think anything like what I found, anything that was 10 foot or less out to how far they're there.
oh, so no. So I was doing it like I would be
Like,
sitting in like 3 and 4 foot on some shallow bars or flats that came off the bank.
yeah, and they were there too. Like they were there.
Right.
Too. They were
So
like they were banked to all the way out on those.
okay. So and I don't think they had as many smallmouth then, but my buddy told me a long time ago. He's like, when Kentucky Lake gets bad, like fishing gets bad, like the bass get bad, the smallmouth population like explodes.
Yeah.
So either way, I was just curious about how y'all were catching them, and then I see everyone like doing the same thing, and I heard one. I don't know. I guess whoever it was with Rob sit there and go, "You think one of these guys on the final day will go up there and try to do like trying to catch a big one, like a 5 or 6 pounder?
Yeah, you
Will
get
they
like
try to
19
go?"
or 20, like go get a large head. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, everyone of them was like, "No," and I was like, "Oh, okay," and so he goes, "No, I don't think anyone's going to go do it." So I watched all that. Well, then I turned over and I hadn't watched any of the elites either. So I turned over and just happened to turn. It was Ray Hanselman out there dragging a jig. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then it skipped right to someone. No, I think it skipped right to Hackney throwing a spinnerbait up around cypress trees. And then it went from there to like someone flipping pads.
Yeah.
It might have been Corey. I didn't really pay attention. And I was going, oh my gosh, 3 different people doing 3 different things, none of them using anything like that. And not that I cared, but Kentucky Lake was it looked like every single person was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then you had different guys doing some different stuff at St. John's. I'm like, see, that's the problem. That's what we're all used to. Now, some people might have still said St. John's was boring. I don't watch any of it because I kind of find all of it sometimes boring because no one's ever talking. They're just sitting there. But I find what they're doing interesting. Well, if I see 10 guys all doing the same thing on Kentucky Lake, I don't really have to watch it anymore. Like, oh, that's all y'all are doing? Cool. And I'm probably not going to learn anything. Like, I learned a lot in 10 seconds that the whole field's doing this. All right, cool. But the other, I'm like, oh, dang, I didn't even know it was interesting.
Yeah. I had Ray on my fantasy team, so he helped me out pretty good on that one.
You should have just done everything opposite.
Yeah.
But my fantasy team, like I kind of did it kind of joking.
Have you noticed like doing the fantasy deal, like it's this year's different?
No, I noticed that last year.
So I've been sucking this year. Usually I'm decent, but this year I've been sucking.
Yeah, I'm always in the 90s. I fell off a lot on this one, but kind of on purpose, kind of like one, I don't care.
Yeah.
But 2, I don't know. I don't really want to get into it, but I was kind of, there's another topic I'm gonna get into that makes me so mad. And it's about talking about guys that live scope and guys that don't, and guys that can catch them and guys that can't with it or without it. And I'm not going to bring you down on that because when I get on it, I'm going to get some hate, and you don't need to be on that,
Okay.
but I'm going to go off, and it's going to be a very common sense approach. But like guys are going to get angry about how I say it. But I'm like, you can get angry at the truth all you want to, but the truth is still what it is. And a lot of it's so funny. Oh man, I'm gonna be a little sarcastic in it. I can tell.
Yeah,
I can tell.
Well, yeah, but smallmouth Kentucky are nutty, by the way.
Huh?
The smallmouth of Kentucky are nutty. There's so many of them.
Yeah,
I didn't expect that at all.
Like, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Like I knew there'd be some maybe like kind of hard to find or something, but it was like my first cast in practice was a 4 1/4. I was
See,
like, the heck?
the last we fished a Toyota there, and I don't know. I think I got to check. I only caught 2 or 3 on one of the days. Like that's how hard it was. But
Yeah,
I caught a 6. I caught a 6-1 smallmouth and like a 3 something. It was right. It was back when Kentucky Lake was like, I mean, it was bad. But
yeah,
yeah, like I ended up going, I think I'm just gonna go fish for all smallmouth in that event. And I'm like, this is weird. I did not plan on doing that. But like you said, like all of a sudden you look up and go, well, why would I fish for largemouth when I keep catching smallmouth?
yeah, and good ones too, like 4 pluses
No, I
consistent.
know.
Like it was good. But
I'm just reading stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go off like so many of the so many people like look at like little picture stuff and not big picture things. And when they talk, like, I'm gonna get on. I've been very, very reserved on talking about guys that catch them with live scope and like and what would happen if you take it away. Like that's a big topic. I've wanted to talk about this for a year, and I'm glad I've waited because it just gives me more ammo. And that's what I'm going to do is like it's ammo. But it'd be like one of the things I'm going to compare it to is this is if you go out there and you flip and you flip all day long and then you look up and after a year you've flipped and you've won like 6 tournaments flipping and you go every lake you go to you flipped and some guy goes, hey man, if you took flipping away from you, how good of a fisherman would you be? Well, I would say probably not that good because that's all you've done. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's okay to say that. Like we talk about it, a lot of us that are really good sight fishermen. Did you take sight fishing away from me in the springtime? I didn't. I'll give you a hint. We didn't really sight fish anything at LBJ and still got a check in the springtime. Um, most of the tournaments this year, we haven't sight fished hardly any of them. It's just bad luck, and we've gotten checks in almost every one of them. I can catch them without it, but I've made a lot of money sight fishing. If you took it away from me, I would not be as of accomplished fisherman. Like no, I have no problem saying that. Now I've won tournaments without doing it, but it's no doubt is like one of my bread and butters. But I can only do it at certain lakes, certain times, and 2 months out of the year, right? But if I'm sight fishing and all of a sudden you see me in a tournament catch one on a spinnerbait, like one, and then and then everyone's like, "Hey man, he could catch them without sight fishing." And you see me catch the spinnerbait. Look what he did. He just caught one without sight fishing spinnerbait. He's the best spinnerbait fisherman in the world. Watch out. He caught one fish on a spinnerbait. He's the best spinnerbait fisherman in the world. That's kind of like what happens with live scope. You see it, guys, in every tournament, you see him live scope, live scope, live scope. And guys are like, what happens if you took it away? Oh, he would still crush on him. And he catches one fish without it. And everyone's like, see? And I'm like, dude, my 9-year-old can catch a fish. Dude, every single person in the country that's ever fished has caught a fish. There's a big difference between catching a fish and being top 100 in the country. There's a giant difference between that. And it's funny that those guys will see a guy catch a fish and go, oh, look, see, he caught one fish. He deserves to be there. He could do it. I'm like, okay, but 99% of his other fish are off live scope. He might be one of the top 100 without it. The problem is none of us have ever seen that. We've never seen hardly some of these guys ever catch a fish without using it. So how would we know? Do you agree with that or not?
yeah. I mean, it's wild. Like we're a little older that we're lucky we can like try to learn. Like we know this, and we're have time where we can learn the live scope thing too. So I feel fortunate on that. But yeah, I know kids that they've never sight fished. They've never, you know, thrown a top water all day for just 4 bites, 5 bites like we do in the fall or something like that. You know what I mean? It's
Oh, they don't even know. They don't even like register.
yeah.
and it's crazy too because um they're not the ones arguing, because if you listen to them, like if you talk to them, some of them are like, "Man, I haven't caught a fish without looking at one in like 2 years."
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just
I've
crazy.
seen what it does. Like I've cashed 2 checks this year using it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I've bounced around, but like both my checks, I used it big time and did, you know.
I think I looked up. I tried to think about last year. About I've used it less this year and more last year. At times. Well, I mean, we're right in the middle of the spawn. So I
Yeah.
mean, but that's the difference is that like I don't even think about trying to go use it right now.
Yeah, like at Rayburn, there's good grass. It was up. Like I did the grass deal, but then I'd go bounce around and go, you know, for floating fish and stuff like that, and did good. Like the last day, I caught all grass fish, and then I culled every one of them out except one on the last day on live scope. Then West Point, straight live scope, and then Kentucky Lake, straight live scope.
Was it live scope or perspective?
I don't have perspective. I just had live scope. I kind of wish I did, but I just don't have it. So, but you could get by like without it. It wasn't.
Were you catching small on beds on live scope?
Mhm. Yeah, well, just next to stump, and you could like sometimes even not on stumps, like without perspective. Like I'm sure on perspective you could see the bed, but without, like you'd kind of see him come up just a little bit
Yeah.
and go back down, and then okay, there's one, and you'd fish for it and get it working and stuff. But
Could you maybe I shouldn't ask you that.
no, I
Could
don't.
well, I don't know if I want. Could you throw something out there and kind of have them like
Like just throw
raise?
something drag around without seeing them.
No, could you throw around out there and have them raise up after it?
I tried a little bit. Like it was like I didn't try. I threw a swim bait around a little bit, but what I saw one like when they raise up, the carp would swim by, and they'd come up and smoke it sometimes.
Yeah,
And find
so
something.
the reason I ask is I was on Amstead in a open and it was really low, really clear. We got a perfect day and I caught them. I mean I made a good check. And I caught a big bag sight fishing, but one of the days I did it is I went up on this flat and I saw these like two bass like swimming and how so, you know, at Amstead, right? There was a ledge, like I was in like the ledge was like 100-foot ledge, and it came up from this like canyon, and then the water was at this perfect depth that there was a flat for like I don't know how long. I mean, hundreds of thousands of yards of like 5 foot of water in
Mhm.
bushes, and the bushes were like maybe sticking out of the water, sometimes a foot or two or not, but they little bitty bushes. So I mean, there were 5 to 7 foot bushes and 5 foot of water. So like I see these two fish clear as day coming out in front of me. I throw whatever I was throwing at the time, skinny dip or something, out in front of me. And like I met them right at the perfect time. They never budged. And I looked up, I'm like, they didn't even look at that thing. And I look up and my line's swimming off. And I set the hook and I caught one of them, right? So I kind of go up on this deal and I'm looking in these bushes and I'm just kind of throwing around because it's Amstead. You can catch fish doing anything. And while I'm doing that, I look out and I see on this bush, this fish comes up there after my swim bait, but doesn't eat it. And I'm like, okay. And my co-angler was like, do you see that? I'm like, yeah, it's a 3-pounder. I don't need a 3-pounder. And I keep throwing around, and like the second one does it. And I see her come up, she doesn't eat it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then I just started doing that at every bush.
Yeah.
And about every 10th or 15th bush, I'd see one. And I'm like, oh, that's a 4-pounder. I'll catch it. And so then I'd turn around and like flip in there a whole bunch, cast from far away. It was on a bed, and I'd catch it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sight fishing, kind of not. But man, I had over 20 pounds doing that. But I was shaking them all off. If one did eat it, I'm like, oh, that's not going to help me. But I mean, I did that the whole time. I was just wondering if those smallmouth are pretty.
Yeah, they do. So actually, I had that on Ontario in August. I was throwing a hair jig scoping, and one shot up, looked at it, and usually when they look at it, they kind of keep swimming. But this one looked at it and went right back down. And I went over there, and there's this huge bed. And it was on a bed like in late, like not late August, like early August, out way out on Ontario.
Yeah.
So
I was wondering if they would do that there.
I'm sure. I just really, I mean, I tried a little bit with a swim bait, but I didn't try it too much. I just go to a stump and kind of see if one's there, flip around it, see if it shows itself, and then go to the next one. That's what I was doing.
Gotcha. I mean,
But
There were some guys still catching large. Did you ever catch a largemouth doing that?
Yeah, I caught a few. I think
Okay.
I weighed in one on one day one, and then yesterday my buddy Alec, he got fourth. He weighed in a good largemouth, doing the same thing, like finding one, the whole deal.
See, I was always curious because everyone said they spawned out there, but I really didn't know if it was true or not.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I think he did it on live too. He caught a largemouth on live doing it.
okay.
I think it
Well,
was
I just didn't
three and a
know.
half.
Like, everyone said they spawned out there on those bars, and I'm like, I was kind of curious as to how they knew because it sounds good, and but I'm just not a just because you catch fish out there in the springtime doesn't mean that's what's going on.
It's spawning, yeah.
I'm one of those guys. It's like, okay, did you throw out there and it bit like 10, you know, if you tell me, hey, I threw out there in practice, got bit on a stump, threw back out there like 10 times and 10 different casts, I got bit every single, like, then yes. But I've had a lot of guys tell me that over the years that aren't sight fishermen talk about certain things. And I'm like, you're just going based off whether you catch them or not, not really knowing if the fish is spawning or not,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Because I can tell you, your lakes piss me off.
Oh, LJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, they spawned a little earlier this year, and then I didn't know it's been kind of. I think the clarity's weird, and then we got a bunch of grass now, like a ton of it, like
Oh, I know.
everywhere.
Oh, I got all kinds of. Whew. I just started I'm doing a series over it, and I literally started it today, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Like, I'm gonna have everything in there, but yeah, we went down there with one thing in mind, and it was not going on
Yeah,
at all. And then it was dirty.
yeah, that sucks.
I
Well,
didn't know.
or some of the canals clear. Because usually if
No.
it's dirty, you can go like real shallow in the canals and you can see okay.
Okay, so like you could go in like we found like maybe less than 5 that were clear.
Yeah.
And then every other canal was clear where the grass was, but then when you get past the grass, so the further you went back in the canal, the dirtier it got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all that grass keeps it kind of clean.
Yeah, so like every canal was usually dirty. Like Colorado, I went in like 9 of them. As soon as you went into the canal, straight dirt.
Yeah.
Except one that had grass everywhere. So, I mean, I didn't even stay up there very long. So, I mean, even everywhere I went, it was pointless
Yeah.
to look in those places. And it was, I mean, regardless of the fact it was raining and everything, and it was going to be cloudy and that, but I mean, it didn't matter. It wasn't clear.
Yeah. Yeah, they
And
caught him
I'm
too. I was a little surprised at the weights. I was like, dang, they caught him pretty good.
Yeah, no joke.
Like, I haven't fished here in like a month, but
I don't know. Like, so I could be totally wrong about this, but speculating, and like I said, I want to kind of give the series away, but speculating, I think I know what they did. Some of them, I don't think no one, we didn't see a single person do what we did. Everyone we talked to and saw by where we were fit, like, because we'd see people catch fish. We never saw a fish over 2 pounds get caught. Some of the guys we talked to didn't have a limit. And then the guys we did see cull were culling 1.9s with one for 2 pounders.
yeah.
So, but I don't know. Like, I mean, I've been there, like, that's my 3rd time ever in my life. That was my first time to ever get to practice that lake.
Yeah. And it's changed a lot. Like the past 2 years, dude, we've had zebra mussels in the water everywhere is crystal clear. We've had hydrilla and they killed it. Now we got a bunch of milfoil around.
Yeah, it's all coontail, a little bit of coontail, mostly milfoil.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and then like the zebra mussels, they killed the zebra mussels by like releasing some clay in the water that dirtied the water, and like the zebra mussels would suck in the clay and die. So that probably, it's been a little weird since. So like, it's been the past 2 years. It's a lot of like just crazy changing conditions for the fish.
Maybe they won't cancel me on YouTube, but we've always talked about zebra mussels. Every single lake in Texas we've ever seen get zebra mussels made that lake 10 times better.
It's awesome. Yeah, I know, dude. I agree with you 100%.
Like when Texoma got zebra mussels, freaking phenomenal. When Ray Roberts got it, phenomenal.
Ivy here.
Yeah, it clears up the lake and it makes it better.
Yeah, it gives bait. It feeds bait fish out of nothing. The zebra mussels filter it, poop out stuff, and the bait fish eat it and thrive. Therefore, the bass thrive.
I don't. I know people don't like it, but the thing about it is, I don't think it can hurt Texas, because of our. I hear they don't thrive in heat very well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we it kind of. I heard up north it can get real bad. They can get real like take over.
Yeah.
They've gotten bad down here, but I think the heat knocks them back. So I
Yeah.
think
And
it's
then
kind of that.
a lot of our lakes fluctuate. Like, do you go
Yeah,
to Ivy or Travis? Dude, you look on the walls and you see all the zebra mussels on the side of the walls, dead. So that wipes them out too.
yeah. So I don't know. I wish, but like, I don't think they did anything to Texoma and all those other lakes. I think it just,
Kind of, yeah. They didn't do anything to Ivy either, and they kind of just died off. Like
yeah.
they're,
I heard catfish eat them too.
I can see that.
I heard that catfish, when people were cleaning them, would have zebra mussels in them all the time.
Hmm.
I don't know.
No.
That's what they say. I really want to know. What does that say? The way it hurts. Maybe it does. I'm not disagreeing with you because it makes it clear. But all I'm telling you is, especially like a place like Ray Roberts. Ray Roberts has a bad problem about getting dirty. It's and the grass is hard for him to grow. As soon as it got clear, the grass grew, and so yeah, it might make it easier for the bait fish to be. But then they had all the grass to get in, and grass is always going to make a lake better. So, you know, what is that? Build up and chew up. Well, I ain't out there running around on the bottom of a
Yeah,
lake.
they are, dude. I've like stepped off the bank, stepped on. They are sharp.
Oh, they're sharp, yeah.
But yeah, it does suck. I get that too. Like stepped on sucks and like around people's docks and blah blah blah. Where they swim vacation. Like I get that.
And like I said, I mean, I know that's what happened to the Great Lakes, but I'm just telling you is that it didn't do it. It helped all of our. I'm saying for Texas, it helped out all of our lakes. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I know. And now, did we have them for 10 years? And would it have declined it? Possibly.
Yeah,
but
we
I'm
had
just saying,
a couple of years everywhere.
for the 4 or 5 years we had them, dude, it freaking was awesome.
Yeah.
There was something else. So how'd you do at Kentucky Lake?
Barely could have checked like 41st. I had a crummy first day, and then second day came back and did okay. So got to check. It's fine.
I don't. Where's y'all's next one?
You fall in a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks from now. I think we leave.
In which one?
Alabama.
Okay. Because I was gonna say because I know the Opens are going to the one in Oklahoma, and then Toyotas are going there too.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I've never been to the one in Alabama.
Yeah, me neither. Looks fun though. I'm excited about that one.
I know. Because I was kind of wondering how many is that 3 now? Y'all had 3?
Yeah, halfway through the season.
You gonna fish anything else?
I'm gonna fish Toyota in the St. Lawrence River, and then maybe U.S. Open on Mojave.
Are you going up to so in the summertime? I know you like to go up north.
Yeah. So we have a tournament on Champlain in June, and pretty much when I leave for that, I'll be up there till like September.
See, I wanted to ask. I'm not going to go back through. Maybe he's still listening. I wanted to ask KCT Fishing so he brought up Bodark Lake. I wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about going up there this week.
That'd be cool.
You heard about it?
Yeah. I haven't heard anyone fishing, but I've been hearing about it.
I know. I want to. Maybe someone will get on here. I don't know much about the lake. Someone did a fly. I think it was Lance Vick did a flyover with his drone.
Yeah.
Because the only other lake I've ever got to go on that was semi-new was Nacogdoches. And I know they're catching 5s and 6s. That's not what I'm I mean, I get that, Brett. I'm wondering, like, I don't know how big that thing is. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I've just been hearing about it, and it's supposed to be like the next Fork or Ivy or whatever, which is cool.
I'll go up there. I ain't worried about catching them up there. I want to know. I've got a plan. I've got something in the works, but I I want to know like how like can you run around? How
Yeah,
is
is
it?
it new? Is it trim? Like, is there trees everywhere? Do they
Oh,
trim it?
there's trees everywhere. So
Yeah.
when I
Are they
went
out
to
of the water you can see or what? Like,
16,000 acres, okay, so that ain't big.
no.
There's trees out of the water that you can see the pastures. When they opened up Nacogdoches was a big, big, long deal. When they opened it up, um, it took them forever when they flooded it. And so there wasn't like green stuff really in the water. It was all older, like everything had died,
Yeah.
but it was still new. And which was awesome. Like there were like the problem was you couldn't get around that lake because the trees has already started to fall, and there'd be log jams of like 300 trees.
Yeah, like a
Like
pocket or yeah.
yeah, like you couldn't even like it was like you could walk across it.
Dang.
And but it was awesome. And I figured out a way to catch them there. It took me we got to go out there on this my buddy Brent, one of his clients or something had gotten a pass. So for like 2 weeks, they only had like let 25 guys go out there, and you had to like it was a draw, like a lottery draw. And so we went out there, and we didn't even go up in like up where it splits. We just went in the middle, and we smashed on them for like the first hour, and then it got tough. And then like you could tell people weren't catching them anymore, and because at that point in time, like, you could just throw a worm out there and catch one. Like, it was that kinda easy in the morning, then it got tough. Well, we went and started flipping grass, and I don't think most of those guys out there, like, knew how to go, like, punch grass.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever seen that, and then we started crushing on them in the middle of the day when everyone else was like, "Man, they're not catching anything." But, it wasn't until later that I finally had time to go out there. And like when I started figuring some other things out, I had it for about 2 or 3 years like that. And I'm wondering if it's going to be like that out here.
Yeah.
Because I will say, I heard they're catching fives and sixes and stuff, and they're not. But I'm telling you, there's 10 pounders in there guaranteed.
Yeah, 'cause they have those stock ponds and stuff
Yeah,
that Texas Park of Wildlife was working with and growing them, right?
yeah, and I'm just telling you from what I've seen, and I'm not a biologist, but I'm just those lakes like Ivy. All those lakes down by where you live are
Mhm.
more apt for this. Any of those lakes that get low and come back up and get fertile like that,
Yeah.
I don't think 99% of most people understand how fast a bass can grow
Oh,
in the
dude,
perfect
yeah,
conditions of like
2
fertile.
years, 6 pounds, easy.
Do
Easy.
what?
2 years, 6 pounds, 4 years,
Yes.
10 pounds.
Okay, so
Maybe even less.
no one says that.
Yes,
So
it's
everyone's
true.
like
Yeah.
Toledo Bend, they're like, where did these 10 pounders come from? I'm like, dude, I'm
I
not saying they're 3 years old.
but they damn sure could be.
They sure could be.
Yeah.
Because, like, people don't understand how fast they'll grow and, like, fertile. Now, anyone from up north is going, "Dude, it takes 10 years for a fish to get 5 pounds."
Yeah.
I get it,
They
but the
put their heads in the mud half the year.
yeah, but the growing season is crazy.
Yeah.
And when you get you like that's like what's going on at Ivy. It's like those aren't that old a fish. They're
No.
just fertile.
Yep. And the food sources there. Like, that's the biggest
Yeah.
the food sources
Well,
there.
fertile
That's
means
all
that
yeah,
all
exactly.
all the
Yeah.
food, like the plankton to the shad to
Dude,
the all
it's
that stuff
nutty. Like, you just scan around and just life everywhere.
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 I didn't believe it at the time. LiveScope wasn't around. We went up to Lake. I was with Scott Martin, and we did me, Scott, Holman, and Andrew did a Scott Martin challenge on Lake. Was it Lake Perla? It was that private lake up
Oh,
there,
La Perla?
I think, or no, it
The guy
was
that is it by Falcon?
no. They won Lake Perla. I can't. It was Wolfpack. His second lake's called Wolfpack. That's where we fished. I forget his first one. Um, Someone will probably get it right. Anyways, he was talking about like we were asking him, Camelot. Thanks, man. I knew someone would get it. No, it wasn't Camelot Bell either. Was it? Yeah, it was. I think you're right.
Yeah, Britt knows. He knows.
Camelot Bell. And then his other one was Wolfpack. Anyways, I think he's right. So we went up there And the guy was talking to us and everything, and I'm like, man, you don't have much cover in Camelot Bell. He's like, yeah, we don't need cover. We got shad. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, man, cover. He's like, we don't need, because he didn't have like trees in there anymore. Like everything had kind of like rotted out. And he was like, yeah, we just need the watercolor the way it is. That's all the cover they need. As long as it's not clear, that they'll use the watercolor as cover. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And he goes, hey man, you'd be surprised. All these bass, these giants, they'll live in the schools of shad in them. I'm like, what? This is before live scope. Yeah. And I was listening to this guy. I was like, he's like, oh, I'm telling you, man, we'll throw a cast net in there and catch shad and catch like a 12, 13 pounder right in the middle of the school of shad.
Whoa.
And I was like,
cool.
Okay, so I guess these shad just don't mind this 12 pounder living in them, whatever. Well, now, dude, how many times have you looked on live scope and seen a ball of shad and they'll be like fish in them?
Oh, yeah, right on there.
I know. I was like, golly, that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Not eating, just cruising with it.
Yeah, that guy. I was like, oh, that guy was right, and I was way wrong on that.
Yeah, dude, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's crazy how that if you get all that, them fish just, they don't need structure like we thought they did.
No, they just grow, just eat and grow, eat and grow.
Just live out there in the midst of all of that stuff. If I guess if they don't care.
Yeah, it's too cool.
What is going on? I missed. I didn't get. I don't even know. They got to going with some. I don't see, and I don't watch. It's hard for me, and like I'm sure for you, we couldn't talk about anything that goes on at Kentucky Lake very much, or St. John's. I mean, did you watch much of it on your way home?
A little bit, yeah. A couple of my buddies, like Colby Miller, my buddy Alec, they made like live and stuff. So I was watching them off and on and stuff, which was cool. But yeah, during the like St. John's, I know Corey won, and that's about it.
Yeah,
you know, I really didn't, and I'd see highlights like on Instagram, like flipping pads and all that stuff. But yeah,
I saw flipping. I would have never known Hackney was throwing a spinnerbait until I saw him on live. But I just watched like while I was cooking breakfast for the kids, and then like I said, I mean, when you go fish all day for a couple of days, that's not really what I wanted to do, is watch fishing.
Yeah,
and
it's very rare that I watch live anymore. Like I got either I'm driving by myself or somebody I know is in it and I'm watching, but I really watch live anymore. Like, dude, at the Classic, I had no idea what was really going on until the weigh-in day 3.
Oh yeah, I know.
You know, because you're working it, you're running around, you're doing stuff. You're like, that's like the biggest tournament of the year and the least I follow.
The Classic. I didn't watch any of it because I was fishing until. Yeah, I didn't watch most. I would watch more if I was in the event and like final day. If I didn't make the cut, I'd watch it. That's the but I was just curious as to like what they were doing and where they were, but I wasn't like watching it too much for anything else.
Yeah.
See, yeah, so that like that spinnerbait, like I got tons of those. It's the 4-bladed spinnerbait. Yeah. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that's what he was throwing.
They didn't make those anymore?
I don't know. I got them.
Yeah, those are a while back.
I don't know if they still do.
Yeah, remember we talked about the king shad? Remember that thing?
Oh yeah.
You had a bunch. Like I found one of it, I think.
Oh, I got or the king shad. I don't have very many king shads. I have wake shads.
Yeah, both like wake shad, king. Yeah,
I got tons of wake shads.
Shads and then the wake shads too.
I got.
Yeah, that was like before its time.
I got the wake shad. I got tons of them. Like I forgot when they were. I think Copley found a bunch and sent me like 40 of them one time. And I still got all 40, like some different colors, like all kind of stuff.
Yeah, they eat that thing too.
But yeah, I still have those 4. I've thrown the 4-bladed spinnerbait a bunch, but or I mean I used to, but I haven't thrown it in a while. The shad, it'll be a new release now. Shad spinnerbait.
Not a bad idea.
No. So because I know Justin I'll be seeing Justin. I assume he'll be up there fishing Eufaula. He was the man. He probably didn't want me bringing this up, but when we were there for the Open, he was. That's all I heard. Justin was going to win this thing. He's probably not happy that I'm bringing that up, but it's a compliment, Justin. Everyone was like saying you're the guy to beat. Me and Justin, we met each other at Texoma the year both of us made the All-American, and so I didn't know Justin, and then it was leading up to the final day, and he was leading the event. I guess I was in second, and maybe Reynolds was in third, and third or fourth or something like that. And then the final day, Justin didn't catch him. I mean, he as good, and I didn't catch him as good. And anyways, I don't remember where Justin finished. He'll probably tell me. I finished second. Reynolds came back and won by a couple ounces, and because Justin smashed on him for 2 days, and then he just ran out of fish. He's like, I'm reliving it all for him, and yeah, and then it sucked too because Justin will know this. So because I always give Reynolds a hard time. Reynolds won a brand new boat and a brand new truck at that event, and I think I won $1,500 for second.
Cool.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah, that sucks.
The only good part was this: is that so I was leaving Amstead, and I had a decision to make. I'd already paid my deposit for the Mississippi Lake Ross Barnett, and I was like, man, do I go to? And I made the cut at Amstead, so I was like, do I drive all the way to Ross Barnett? It's going to take me like 2 days from Amstead, or I'm not going to be able to make it in a day. And then so I was going to get there on a Monday, get like a day and a half to fish, or just go fish a regional on Texoma. But I was like, man, I was going to have to give up a $600 deposit, but it was at least on Texoma. And I ended up going, man, I can't believe this. I'm going to give up this deposit and go fish this Texoma event. It was the same open that I forgot his name. He was shot down there in practice.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was always a little sketchy about going down there. Anyways, my wife was like, thank goodness you didn't go down there. But anyways, I came in second and then made the All-American. Oh, see, Justin came in fourth. But anyway, so me and Justin then Justin was really good friends with all my buddies, Hallman, Larry Ray, Nick, all them guys from Oklahoma. So I think me and him headed down. We went down to, because it was on Wilson. We went down to Wilson, and before the cutoff, me and him got a room, got freaking just went fishing for a couple of days. So we've but I hadn't seen him in a while. But yeah, when we were going back up to Eufaula, he was going to be the guy to beat. He'll probably win. He'll probably win it now.
When is that? A couple months? Like that's after ours in Eufaula, like mid-May.
Toyota's in the mid-May, and then they got an open in like mid-June. Mm-hmm. So, or something like that. I don't know if he's fishing both of them. I know there's no doubt he'll be fishing at least one of them.
Yeah.
So, because that was my first time last year to go down there in that open. I caught him really good on day 2 and made it. I think I finished 18th or whatever. But I'm kind of more excited to get down there in May than in June.
I've driven by it a bunch, but never been there.
Do what?
I've driven by it a bunch, but never been there.
Oh, I know. When you drive by it, like that place is very overwhelming.
Yeah, it's huge. I'm just like, you're driving, you like, how close you fall, and then like 20 minutes in another bridge, like, oh, damn.
You never stop going over bridges.
Yeah, there's you fall again. Then another one, you're like, oh, there's you fall again.
I tried to look at the map going, I can't even, like, every time I drive over, I'm like, I don't even know how this thing's laid out. It's so awkward.
Yeah.
And I was I talked to Hallman. Like, I don't ever get, like, I don't want information from anyone, right? And I'm like, Hallman, this is the best. I was like, Hallman, all right. You know how I like information. Give it to me. He said, go this way. I said, all right. That's all. He goes, you can go over here to this one area. He said, but just go that way. And I was like, all right.
Perfect.
And I'm not saying which way that was, but he just told me, he's like, go that direction.
Yeah.
And I said, anything else? He goes, dude, you'll figure it out. Like that's your kind of deal. He goes, no problem. And literally, he knows it. And he was like, "You'll be fine." I get down there within 5 minutes. I catch like a 10-incher, and then my next one's a 4-pounder, and then a 3-pounder. I'm like, "Oh, I get it." And I had I can't wait to go back. I like it.
Sick.
But I don't know. It changed. Of course, I don't know. I think they say it can get up in the bushes and things like that. I don't know much about it.
Yeah. Where are you at now? Why this? I haven't kept up with Toyotas at all because I'm not.
Oh, well, no, I guess I'm not horrible. I feel like I'm horrible. Am I? I don't know what I am. It feels bad. I'll be honest, but I think I'm like top. I'm probably like top 15, maybe.
No. So it could happen again.
No,
You don't think so?
no, not even close.
Hmm.
Mark McQuall brought it up, and I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna freaking no. Um, Let me see. No, I did bad enough in the first one. What am I at? 14th. Oh no, I have no shot. Dude, Cole Moore, Alec Morrison, Colby Miller, Marshall Hughes, Blake Schroeder. One of them guys is gonna win it.
Yeah, they're all fishing super good right now.
Yeah, if it's not Cole Moore. We already jacked with Cole Moore saying it's his to lose for the most part.
Or Cole, why?
Huh?
Why?
No, I mean it's his to lose. Like he's
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
I pick him.
Yeah, that's what I thought you said. Like he's gonna lose. I'm like, well, you
No. Like we put like it's his to lose it. Like he's got a 10-pound lead.
Yeah.
Or a 10-point lead. I had like last year. Oh, you remember what happened last year?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the last event?
Yeah, I'm driving off. And you're like, come back. I'm like, I didn't make the cut. You're like, you made the cut. I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm driving back. And he's like, yeah. And then it was windy as hell. And oof.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know. So I had a 2018 I had a 24-point lead. I think is what I did in the final, and I finished 25th in the event. And the cut was 25, and I was just I'd been fishing like nonstop. Like I hadn't had a break. I think both my kids had games and everything on a Saturday, and I had just limped by in that event. Like everything had gone perfect for me to get 25th, and I was going. And then Alec Morrison had like a 20-point lead over or a 20-pound lead over everyone in the event.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Still blew it away. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to win it. I've got Angler of the Year. Steven Johnson made the cut, but I was like, he'd have to like win it.
He'd have to win it
or come in second. I did the math, and I'm like,
he had to win it. That's what he had.
Yeah. And I was like, well, so what happens if I don't fish the final day and I just go home and the 26th spot takes over my spot? And Mark's like, yeah, you can do that. I'm like, I look down the list. I'm like, oh yeah, it's Rick. This is awesome. Yeah. So I called you up and I was like, you want to come back and fish another day? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember I walked up to go tell them like, hey, Rick's coming back. And Steven's like, you ain't fishing no more? I'm like, nah, man, I'm out. He's like, oh, you better come back here and get on all this wind. Because I called him up later. He's like, oh, you didn't miss.
Oh, dude, it was bad, bro.
Yeah.
My lower unit was going out too, and I was in Harvey. And I like ran back with a crappy lower unit, like 4-footers the whole way back. It sucked.
Yeah, I was at my kids' watch because I hadn't watched hardly any of their games all year long. I'd been missing them all, and I was going, yeah, man, maybe I move up a couple spots. I don't know. Like, there's a good chance I fish and lose more money just on gas money for the day,
or breaking something,
Yeah,
dudes ripped off some stuff. No, it was bad.
I wasn't on them. I pieced together to get 25th place. Like, I mean, it wasn't going to be good.
Yeah, that was a weird event. And I was like, because I was actually staying with Alec during that event.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. So like to fish and like be there, weigh in while he win was cool. You know, when your buddy
wins
and stuff. So it was a cool deal.
He's been catching them too. I thought he might win Kentucky Lake.
I thought so too, man. He just didn't get a 6-pounder or whatever, but yeah, he's unreal, dude. He's just being around him. I've known him since he was in high school. He's one of my best friends, and like he's just this is no surprise for us because we've known him for so long. He's very talented.
He's all live scope.
Yeah, but he can catch. He caught him. He's only had live scope maybe 2 years before he was
I
catching.
fished every event against him, and he's not done nothing but live scope.
Yeah, definitely. But he like I've witnessed he can catch them without him too, and he just understands fish. That's what I think makes it so deadly. Like he has live scope and people that have live scope, and also he understands fish, what they're doing, why they're doing it, reacting. Like he's when just talking to him, he's just on another level. It's very impressive.
I'm interested to see where it all goes. I'm
Yeah.
just telling you, man. I think people are in for a rude. Like I think there's a lot of like so. I got a message. I got a message the other day, and he was telling me about, hey, so and so's freaking in the top 10, and I was like, oh yeah, what? This was like this weekend, and I just kind of wrote back, oh yeah, what tournament is it? And I wasn't joking. I was being serious. I was joking because I probably could have looked it up, but I was like, yeah, what tournament is it in? And he said it, and I'm like, yeah, man, there's like 9 different professional touring tournaments going on every weekend. I can't keep up.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like my point is, and I kind of joked around that like this sounds bad. And I understand people won't understand what I'm saying. And I don't care anymore. I quit trying to explain it all because people can't grasp all this. But I'm like, they're just handing out wins left and right. And it's not like they're not deserved. It's just when it's never going to be a good thing to have all these different events going on. I mean,
Yeah.
they saw it with the BPT and the elites that like when you put them on the same weekend, no one wins. It hurts. And so when you got everything televised, like those two, NPFL,
Yeah.
the opens, the invitationals, I mean, I've tried to tell people, I'm like, look, it's not that no one cares. It's just that when start all that stuff starts being diluted. And if it
Yeah.
all starts getting diluted, you know, then then you're just out there kind of I look at it as, man, I'm trying to make it in the game. And I was like, some of these kids don't care if they make it in the game. They're just trying to go out there, and it's not even really about cash and checks for some of them because I think a lot of them don't need the money.
Yeah.
So they're just out there doing it for fun. That will hurt the industry way worse than anything. You know, I'm just saying because like that's what I'm saying. At a certain point, it'll all get watered down. All this stuff will get kind of. I'm just telling you, man, it's not a good. I'm just telling you, the industry's not in a good spot, no matter what people think.
I mean, I've been fishing as long as you, but it's very, very strange.
Well, like so, even on YouTube, like I love YouTube, and I love this. Um, I like not this, but I do like that comment. Um, what I just thought it was funny because I get it. Because I get it. Like you're right. A lot of people don't speak Castle Dinese. Um, what I noticed though is YouTube, social media. So I don't watch any YouTube videos, but I get all my comments from either my YouTube. I read every comment on YouTube. I don't respond to every one of them because I don't have to, yeah, I can't. But social media, I read like things that will pop up, comments. And I read the comments, not necessarily the post as much. And then I read the comments or I get people's take and then I read the comments. And so I'm always kind of getting a pulse of what people have to say. And even on my YouTube and stuff, like I'll make some videos or whatever, and someone will be like, "Hey, less talking, more fishing," you know. And I'm like, "Yeah, I get it. You want fishing videos every single day. I'd love to make fishing videos every day, but um, I don't have someone paying me $5,000 a day to go fish. Like it's time. I got to edit. I got to do it takes time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like right now, I'm working on those videos. But man, those videos I have to edit for the fishing stuff, the series, because none of these other guys are doing these series that I'm doing. Like no one in the freaking YouTube does them. Not a single person. And the editing on that is incredible because I have to like go through 10 hours of fishing, then I have to do the before and after, and then I talk
Yeah.
over it.
Yep.
It's like a crazy way of how I have to edit it. No big deal. I like doing it. It's not, but I mean, I can't do it in an hour. And then I still have the days where I fish all day long. So I mean, either way.
No, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. When when you have when you read of all the comments of stuff like that, and then people are doing all this stuff like they want more fish and more fishing. I can do like the most phenomenal, what I consider, like I just gave away the juice of like this like phenomenal fishing video. And then I did this stupid video that took me about 15 minutes joking around. I didn't even realize it was April Fool's. Like I didn't realize it until like that day. My kid says something to me. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go mess with YouTube for a little bit. And I did a April Fool's YouTube joke. Dude, that thing is like gotten like 4 times more views than any of my fishing videos.
Hmm.
And it's just me goofing around on about April Fool's, about how I'm like gonna quit fishing because of live scope, just joking around. And when you start looking around, I think everyone can say this on here if they comment. It seems like more people are more worried about the drama part of it than the fishing part of it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I can't imagine that over time that will sustain
No, I don't think
and be
so.
a good thing.
Yeah.
But they care way more about the drama part than they do about the fishing part. And if that's the case, I think Frank is agreeing with me on this. I know he is, but I mean, I'm saying like, if that's the case, that's kind of like what I was saying, like the substance of fishing when I first started this whole art thing, is that like if you lose the substance of fishing with live scope or drama or whatever it is, people are watching for a lot of things, but it stops being about the fishing. I can't, I'm not saying they should watch it because of the fishing. I'm just saying they better watch out what they create. Because if you create this and that's what you've created, then that's what it's going to turn into, and it's just not going to be good for everyone. I guess I might be totally wrong about this, because like people watch racing for the wrecks and the burnouts. I mean, my dad, I always said, I was like, Dad, why do you watch golf? And my dad was like, man, I like to see the final day. I like to see the people freaking not freak out, but nerves get to them.
Yeah.
He wants to see if they choke.
Yeah.
And I was like, seriously? And I at the time I was really young and I'd never heard my dad talk like that. I just like, and he was like, yeah, man, I just want to see who freaking loses it.
Yeah. Well,
And I was like
in a tournament, it's like, you play, like they recap the fish catches and the fish losses. Both of them are both in, I'm not saying someone losing a fish is entertaining and good to watch, but it's part of it, and you watch it,
yeah. And I don't mind. Yeah. I mean, I can see that part of it. I like, I like seeing, I don't know if you're like this too. I'm not thinking of a single incident, but like, I know some of them. How do I say this? So the more you're in it, and I'm sure that's not true either. Some of the elite guys don't know. Some of us know. There's certain guys that know more about what's really going on.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got dudes I call them like, what, like what's that? Like if something happens in the industry, I call this person because they know the.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So and then there's so many things that us guys can't talk about because we'll just get hate on. And so whether it be, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to tournaments and it's like, I know somebody and they're like, that guy called everyone before he came here. That guy freaking rang, like freaking lit everyone's phones up and all this stuff. And I've been in tournaments too. I'm eventually gonna tell this story to everyone. I'm sure if anyone pays it was about the All-American. I'm going to talk about the All-American story one day. I'm going to. But man, I heard about what happened and then I saw it on TV. later. And I'm like, oh, he wasn't lying. Like what he said before before, and then it came out on TV. I'm like, oh, he was like he was like behind the scenes, like the night before the tournament, and some things happened, some things were said, and I'm like, yeah. And so some of these tournaments are like that, where, and I've always said this on my YouTube channel, everyone can say it, is that what you see on, I'm not saying all of them are like this. I'm just saying there's times, the times that I know, right? That like, oh, I can put the two together. That when I'm going to do this LBJ thing, you're going to see my map and you're going to see no waypoints. Well, you're going to see waypoints, but you're going to see waypoints from like, the waypoint's going to be on my line, right, of my trail. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I should have taken a screenshot of LBJ before I got there, but I wasn't thinking about making a series and be like, this is what LBJ looks like on my map. 0 waypoints, right? And then you're going to see every waypoint, but you can tell every waypoint that I have on there is followed by my trail in practice. So you're going to see all of that. And so you can see how I'm going to show so much of this stuff, so you can see how I go through the entire process of doing it all. When I say legit, I could have gotten, but I'm just telling you, that's what happened. A lot of times some of us know what went down or rumors of stuff, and then you see it on live and they don't really talk about it. It's like, oh, I went and found these 90 brush piles, right? And sometimes you can see these brush piles are like marked on their map, but there's no trail by it. And there's going to be guys on here going, well, maybe they erased the trail. Okay. I'm just telling you, there's things like that where you're looking at it and they're talking about how they figured all this stuff out. And I'm always trying to tell people on YouTube and stuff like, hey guys, y'all aren't seeing the finished. Y'all are seeing a product, but it's not finished. It's like, you don't see all the lead up to that. So you're like, the guy's telling you how he figured them out on brush piles. He just didn't tell you that some guy told him how to do it and figured it out.
Yeah.
And so you're like, man, this guy is really good. And I'm like, yeah, he's a good fisherman. Don't get me wrong. He's just really good. And he got one of the best guys on the lake to show him how to do it. So like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. And some of them, I'm not saying even in the elites couldn't have done this beforehand. I'm just saying that if you're trying to learn about fishing, they can give you zero, that they're not going to teach you a single thing. That's all I'm saying. Because if they didn't figure it out the way from start to finish, then they're telling you a half truth. And if you think you can figure it out from a half truth, good luck. That's all I'm saying. And so that's why I look at those events and I look at things and I hear them say stuff. And I'm like, that don't add up. Something about that sounds fishy. Not all of them, but just certain times throughout an event, you can hear something. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually I get help from buddies and stuff, and I usually give credit where credit's due and stuff. And like some events, you don't need anything. Some you do. And you have a certain group of people that you bounce stuff off of and that you trust. And you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a lot of people think that's getting it from, that's just being buds and fishing. But there's, like people that get a ton of waypoints, people that just, like we'll be sitting around and like somebody will call me and then call somebody else. Like,
oh yeah.
All just like, what the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your phone goes off. Yeah.
And you hang up and your other buddy's phone goes off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like I said, some of it's all legal. No,
yeah, totally.
A lot of it is.
Yeah, we all bounce stuff off each other and do that.
And it doesn't. A lot of it doesn't bother me. What I find interesting though is that like when I see someone that constantly does it, I just it's not a lose respect thing. I just give certain people credit. I didn't watch Aaron Martin's very closely. Like a lot of times, like, I wasn't really, for whatever reason. I saw him at Toledo Bend in an open or no, an elite event, and it showed him where he was at. And I was like, do what? Because I instantly know no one in their right mind ever at Toledo Bend would ever do would ever have given nothing. And I started watching him more closely towards the end, and I was like, this dude's out there freaking not, he ain't doing what anyone's ever doing. And I was like, that's incredible. And so those guys like that, my respect for them goes like through the roof.
Yeah.
And they always seem to catch them. And then there's other guys that you hear about some things, because I'm like, man, how'd that guy win Angler of the Year? How'd that guy do this? And all of a sudden he can't catch him anymore. And they're like, dude, that was when. And then someone has a reason why. I'm like, oh, that year there's just a whole bunch of different things. And you start to kind of look at going, certain things add up and then these other things don't add up. And it's kind of weird how that works. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm always curious as a guy who makes the top 10 at one event and then finishes 150th, 5 events in a row, and then makes another top 10, almost leading it. And I'm like, so you can't, it's like you couldn't figure out how to catch a fish for 5 events and all of a sudden top 10 and over here again. It's something always is a little weird on that. Cause most of those guys are usually you usually fall in a line of consistency,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's about you, but dude, I had the worst event ever on Rayburn, and the next event on Texoma I won. But that's just
that's just one thing. I'm talking about you can see a pattern over 5 years. I look at a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, how it something, and then the way they're fishing, like I said, I'll notice it too, and sometimes maybe it's the way they fish. But I remember one guy, I'm like, and it was just really, really isolated, perfect little spots he was on. And he was killing it. And then I'm like, I'm always questioning when guys win them off of spots a lot more than when they win it off of pattern stuff. You can tell the guys that win it off of patterns. Those guys, you know what I'm saying? And not every spot fisherman's like that. I'm just saying, but some of them kind of, you go to question them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get to.
I think fishing just, it's hard. Some days you catch them, some days you don't.
I don't know if I also watched a lot of live too, and I don't know what they're supposed to say. Maybe I haven't been. Maybe I don't watch enough. Maybe they can tell me. It doesn't seem like guys are talking about stuff anymore either.
Well, I mean, I kind of get that. Especially when you're looking at live scope and stuff. I've done guide trips, right? Teaching people how to do it and stuff like that. It's like if we were talking right now and I was texting. I'm doing this, but I'm.
Oh yeah.
That's and I don't think it's the angler's fault. I think that's just how our brains are. We're focused on something, and it's hard to do both. When you're talking to somebody, they're texting they're out of it, but still in it, but out of it at the same time. That's what I kind of think it is, because I've noticed doing regular guide trips or talking, having fun, cutting up. When I'm doing the live scope trips, it's not much talking. It's more just learning into it, and you kind of can't talk because you're doing that.
Well, okay, so here we go. Because I want to. Well, I'll wait to bring into that. If you're sight fishing for a fish, you could be. If I was just oh, she turned around. Oh, she's looking at it. Oh, she went out of the bed. And I'm telling you all this stuff. You could kind of do a picture in your head, but not really. And so, whatever you're talking about, they can't see. You're visually seeing it. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're not visually seeing it. Now, if you're guessing as to what's going on, and what I mean by that, say you're cranking and you're cranking along and you got this whatever, and you're like, man, and you're just talking about what you feel you think is going on underneath the water. And you're like, man, and so you use all the things that most of us fishermen used all those times, right? So like morning time, wind, this is going on, this. And so you're trying to get all the things that you've accumulated throughout the day to figure out, and through practice to figure out why you're catching them and cranking and what you think, blah, 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 and the color, all that stuff. As fishermen, we all can relate to trying to put all those pieces together. It's just like my LBJ, like the LBJ series I'm going to do is all going to be about me putting all these things together, but I'm going to do it's going to be a very in-depth look. Like I'm going to show you what I thought about, and then you're going to see me doing it, and then you're going to see how all that plays out. To me, that's how you can like really show someone, rather than just going, I threw this down the bank. Someone might think they figured something out, but not really.
Yeah.
I think that's what goes on in regular fishing. Same thing with and I've always said sight fishing, watching it isn't that much fun because you can't see the fish. If you're watching the fish and watching someone do it, I've never met a person that said it's boring.
Oh, dude, check this out. So doing the flogging thing up north, if you have the chance to flog it or catch it, flogging it's funner.
Correct.
The fish, you know what I mean?
So I think you're right about that, is that like you're right. It's like me having a conversation doing this the whole time, and there's a part of you that's looking at me and I'm talking to you, but you really don't feel like you're talking to me. It looks like you're more interested in your phone. Maybe kids don't feel that way because they grew up that way, but we didn't grow up that way. And I mean, to this day, a parent or so, we're all like, hey man, look at me when you talk to me. I think that could be part of it. And then you're saying what a fish is doing on the screen, but you can't see it. Now I know they're getting better at that, but I will say this, all that, I kind of joke around a little bit, like on Andrew's Opens Pick'em thing, about like all you got to do in live scope is kind of just get out there in live scope and nothing really matters. Obviously, I'm being a little sarcastic. However, I'm not that far off in the sense of, because I've done it. It's hard to catch fish on live scope when you're not around any. Like anyone going to like you said, OH Ivy, if you put in an OH Ivy and if you dropped me in the middle of OH Ivy and I was never allowed to crank my boat, put me anywhere on that lake, within an hour, will I see a fish?
Yeah. Yeah, you'd see one.
Okay. After I see one, how close could I get? Now, just on trolling motor, I could eventually get to somewhere close to like points and some things, and I'm going to start seeing fish, correct?
Yeah.
If you went to certain places, right, and you are trying to figure out, you're going to have to figure out patterns, baits, all these different things. Live scope kind of lets you instantly like start seeing fish. So if you dropped me in the best pocket in OH Ivy, how quick am I going to see a fish on live scope? Pretty quick.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference, is that when I talk about that, is all the stuff that I tried to do at LBJ and other people try to do at certain places at times, you're trying to figure out a pattern, a bait, all these different things because you can't see the fish. You're trying to you're taking everything in and trying to catch them. Live scope sometimes is a little bit like you just don't really have to do any of that. You just look around until you find one. Now, I'm not talking about they're all easy to catch. I'm just stating that like a lot of times weather, I've done it enough. I've caught thousands of fish on live scope. The only kind of weather that bums me out is 30-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah. Other than that, I could care less about the weather. I could care less about fronts
or sun
morning, afternoon. I don't take, like, if you're on a topwater bite and you got an hour in the morning, that's all you got. You ain't worried about that with live scope.
No.
All the things that we worry about for like, hey, I want to go fish boat docks, man, but man, the boat docks don't get good until there's shade and it's right. Guy on live scope's not worried about that at all.
Yeah, same with grass and all. Yeah,
same with grass, same with everything. And I think that's what I kind of joke around a little bit about. And I know it's not easy for everyone. And people, there's gonna be guys in the comments go, well, yeah, if it's so easy. I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying it's easy, but when I get to a lake, I don't just sit there. And I think that's what happens nowadays. Guys don't care about like my first thing is going to be me talking about what I'm thinking in my head and me going to this pocket. I think someone else just goes, yeah, I just went to that pocket and started live scoping around. I probably could have done that. I don't know. I didn't try it. I thought I had a better game plan than that. My game plan did not work out because I didn't know it was going to be dirty and some other things, right?
Yeah.
But my point is I don't think they cared. They didn't care. They wouldn't have cared if the back of the creeks were dirty or not. They just like, whatever.
And the whole Alaska, like, couple lakes in West Texas, they are chocolate milk, and you can catch them online. It's crazy.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
It's crazy. I mean, it's like you can't see it.
I know you're talking about that one lake in particular.
Yeah, it's pretty. It blew my mind. I was like, but
because it's definitely harder to catch them in dirty water.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, you still do though. I mean, it's definitely harder to catch them when the water's dirty, but you can still do it.
You can still do it, but man, I can, man, like on Rayburn when they get out dirty, like it. I'm not saying you can't catch them, but man, you got to be a lot more perfect.
Oh, you got to be right on their nose, 100%. Like, it takes way more cast, definitely all that, but it can be done for sure. Bait change up a little bit, but
like there's a point in there where you want clear enough water, but not crystal clear.
Yeah, because they see you, and you want that.
You want that, like where they'll travel a little bit to eat it, but not to where they try. They get so close that they won't eat it. I don't know.
Yeah, like Table Rock, some places are super clear, and if they weren't like actively feeding, it was really hard to catch them. You had to get them slipping.
Oh well, hold on. I didn't even go. Where's that other? I want to talk about that. Oh, I agree with him about the pessimistic part. I will say this. The pessimistic part comes from history. I was not pessimistic when I was younger. When you're young, dude, everything's great. Everything, like I went to fish a tournament and everything, but then all of a sudden, I've been beat by cheaters. How many cheaters? I mean, I can go on and on. I've done this before about guys cheating in tournaments. Well, all of a sudden, it doesn't take long before that pessimistic part comes into your brain because you've got beat by cheaters and they've caught them like a year later, and you're like, "Yep, we knew it." When you start finding out, if you don't know, if you're just fishing a tournament and you don't talk to anyone, you go out there and you come in 10th place and you don't know anything else, that pessimistic part doesn't come into your brain. Like you just got beat. And a lot of tournaments like LBJ, we walked away from LBJ, and that's the place we came in is the place we came in. And I have zero, like I have no knowledge. I don't know any of those people down there. The only ones, well, I know like Charles Whited and I know Tim Renault, right? But I mean, and I knew some other guys, but I'm not talking to them. I don't know any of that stuff down there. So we just drove away like no big deal, no drama, no nothing. What stuff happens on Rayburn, not all the time, but at times, I'm like, oh, he won. Oh, that's how. Oh, and then all of a sudden, like conversations start, and guys that I trust go, that's where so and so caught him last week. He went over there and watched him in that turn. And so you start realizing that there's some guys on Rayburn that never gets talked about. And then there's some guys, it's always gets talked about. Then all of a sudden you're out there and the same guy that you hear does it, comes and does it to you. Right? So the pessimistic part is true, but it's only because of past
experience.
History.
It's happened, yeah.
It's happened. And so when I hear about all these guys getting info, like when all of our phones go off, one after another, it's the same guy. You start realizing that, okay, if the little part we know about is going on, it's going on a lot of other places, you know. And so, yeah. And some of the guys I just mentioned, um, the Timber Nose and like I don't hear about those guys that way. So I don't, like I
Yeah,
know those guys.
they've been
There's certain
catching
guys that you
fish
never hear
too.
about.
Yeah, they've been smashing
Timber Nose goes anywhere he wants to. Charles Whited goes anywhere he wants to and catch.
catches. Yeah, and catches.
And I'm not saying all of us haven't gotten help or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying is because I wasn't talking about them. I was talking about the other part of you hear about, and I'm talking about more of the professional side. You hear it and you see it, and then you kind of see it unfold on TV, and you're like, wait a minute. I know how he does things on a lower level. Man, it's probably going on the upper level, and it is, and it's just like, man, whatever, But I will say this: I don't know if Zona said it, but I've always said this. I brought this up, man. I wanted them to bring. I pushed for them to have a no live scope event, just one.
Yeah.
And it was not for me viewing. I'm not even going to watch it. I could care less. I will look one time, and that will be Sunday at 4:00. I will look at the results, and I'll be like, because I already know what the results are going to show, but you can't argue that with people because people can't wait to defend someone, even though they have no clue. But yeah, Zona, yeah. It was an interest. When I looked at the top 10, I was going, huh, interesting. I guess that's not working.
Dang.
He's got, I mean, and I agree with him. I agree with him on the part. I agreed with him kind of on everything.
Yeah,
He
it's like
said.
catching fish and losing the fish. Yeah, it's like both sides are in it.
Yeah. Like I agreed with him saying, I was just kind of, I guess, saying why I agreed with him is that like, that it wasn't just me being a pessimistic thinking people are cheat, like just because someone wins a tournament, I never think someone cheated.
No. Some people don't like, yeah.
Yeah, like there's someone out there right now that it took a lot of things coming together and red flags like, well, I'll put it to you this way. I thought one of the biggest red flags, this was last year, that I got a phone call and my buddy got a phone call from different people that have nothing to do with bass fishing to a degree. We got a phone call on the same day. And both phone calls were like, I sure am glad you're having to deal with that guy and not us. Because we kicked him out a long time ago. And I go, huh? And I didn't even know what he was talking about. Like, I didn't even know who he was because I'm like, he won a tournament. And I had to go back and look. He won a tournament. And then I guess he had just won another tournament, but I didn't fish that tournament. And then Russell gets the same phone call from someone totally different. They don't know each other. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then we started doing like digging around. And then we started putting all these red flags. Oh, and it didn't take long. And I told everyone it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And he hadn't got caught. He just don't fish no more. He just quit fishing. And I said that. I'm like, yeah, he's the best fisherman there is. Like I always made jokes about that. Is that you got these guys from down here. It'd be like you got guys in Central Texas. It'd be like Charles Whited in Central Texas, right? It'd be you pick a North Texas guy, you can pick an Alabama Gunnersville guy. It'd be like picking the best guy y'all have ever known in the last 20 years on Gunnersville. And then some guy come in there that you've never heard of and do in a year or two, do more than what that guy's ever done almost in his career. And he does it in about a year's time. You've never heard of him. It's not really, I get the whole live scope thing, but like, and then there's all this kind of like back history behind some other stuff. Like nothing makes sense. Only wins big tournaments. never had a bad day, won't fish anything on camera, all these different kind, always a trailer event, all these different things. And you're like, hey man, look, this is obvious. And guys are like, man, you know what, you don't think this could happen? I'm like, it's never happened before in the history of Guntersville. And yet this one guy has come around and everything about it is shady. And then all of a sudden he's made $200,000, and then the heat kind of gets on him, and then he never fishes on Guntersville again. I'm like, yeah, that didn't sound shady. And if someone thinks I'm talking about Guntersville, I have no idea. I'm just telling you that goes on a lot of times. And when someone makes a claim, it's not a claim, but it's like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Have you ever found anything in the water? Like, I found a dog crate sunk on Amstead one time.
So I have people like say, hey, what is that right there? I'm like, look, guys do a lot of catfish things. Like,
yeah, no, this wasn't. I've seen those where like they reach under and noodle. This was like a sunken dog crate with a locked door on it.
Oh yeah, no.
And I was like,
I called
had it. Hey, this is here. You might want to watch it. You know?
Well, so the problem with all that, and I've always gotten mad about this. A guy I trust who runs tournaments found he was co-angling and got hung up in it, and his boater was like, "What is that?" And they got it, and it was like perfectly all like put in there, and it was brand new, and it had a gate on it and everything. And he goes, "Man, where it was interesting and all this stuff." And he told me about it. I'm like, "What'd you do?" He's like, "We kept it there." I'm like, "Smart." Because everyone knows. Yeah. The problem is, and this is a knock on game wardens. I know they got other stuff to do, but game wardens just going to take it up.
Yeah.
They ain't going to go out there and like see what happens.
Yeah, there's a tournament Saturday. Let's post up.
Yeah, and post up. They're not going to. I'm not saying they should, but and what's funny is I've never heard of anyone finding fish in those things.
No,
they're always empty.
There's no fish in it. No.
Yeah, I don't know it, but he took a picture of it and sent it to me and told me where it was. And he was like, "Man," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not going out there on a Saturday. I don't know I don't know either."
Yeah.
But I've seen some. Most of the times, I don't think most people are. I think it's gotten a lot more complicated than that. Like the guys I talked to, they ain't putting them in no bat. Like we kind of already have an idea of what they were doing. But like I said, it's amazing. It's amazing that like for a year, like I had to go back and look at they don't realize this, but what I couldn't like, so all the best fishermen I've ever been around on Rayburn, and I can just start bringing them all up. I mean, you just go, if you want to, the Dickie Newberries, the Steven Johnsons, the Chris McCalls, to the new guys now, you can bring up guys like Cole Moore. You can bring like Colby Miller is starting to catch them, the Derek Mundy, Jason, all these guys fish. The only ones that don't, but they've been fishing for 20 years, is Corey Rambo has done a couple of them, but they don't really fish too much individual stuff. But every one of them is like, you can see what they do. They fish from 12 months out of the year. They get in the big stuff. They get in the small stuff.
Everything.
Almost every single guy I mentioned has gotten in individual stuff. They catch them in individual stuff. They catch them in team stuff. I'm not saying all of them can catch them all over Texas. Some of them don't need to or don't want to travel. I could care less about that. But and they have zero problem catching 30 pounds one weekend and backing it up with a 10 pounds the next weekend. Right? I mean, we've all done it. We've all been really good and really bad. We all have good streaks, and then we get on slumps, and it's a consistent, the better ones stay up here in a better level, but there's no red flags ever with any of those guys. I can name 50 of these guys. But then all of a sudden another guy comes in there and this guy does better than all those other guys combined. And like a year, and then you're like, well, why didn't he fish? No, okay, those were all trailer events. Let's see. All of them paid big first place prizes. He got in. He wouldn't get in all these other ones. Any like there were certain ones he never got into. Oh, that's a trailer event. That's a trailer event. That's a trailer event. Man, oh, that one. It would be like this week good, this week good, trailer. This week the weather was bad, trailer. This week perfect. Didn't get in that one. Then the next week trailer did good, and he did good in all those. Just didn't get in the one where we actually had to take off from. And this is just one little thing, but it would be. Then all of a sudden he goes 6 months without fishing. Fishes the biggest event they have in the summertime, trailer event, smashes them. And I'm like, man, he has fished 10 events over a 2-year period and has never weighed in less than like 23 pounds. I'm like, I don't know of a single fisherman on Rayburn that's ever done that, ever. And yet they're all, I can, and I stopped looking at other events because I'm like, I don't even have to look to see if he fished that event. I can just look to see it. What's the most money they paid off in an event? And I'll look at those events. And there he is.
That's crazy. Maybe I'm just like oblivious, but like, dude, I can never.
Oh no. And all of a sudden,
that,
yeah, but all of a sudden this year, yeah, almost non-existent.
Yeah, I can like so much integrity goes on in this thing. I can never. Like, dude, I hooked a smallmouth outside the mouth, like in the mouth, and then in the net it shook off and got outside the mouth, and I was like, what do I do? Asked my co-in there if he saw it, called Mark McGaw. Like I could never even think about doing something like that.
Well, see so I hated that GoPro when I first got it. Like I was so pissed that we had to, well, I wasn't pissed. I didn't understand the whole, why would anyone show what they're doing? And then we had to get it for the FLW tour.
Yeah, we still got it.
Huh?
Yeah, we still have to have it. Yeah.
Right. And then it was like, hey, if you want to fish the tour and we're not going to have co-anglers, this is the way. And I'm like, okay. And then it was within a week, I was like, I like this thing. Then all of a sudden it turned into like, never fished a day without it. And now I don't know the last time I've ever fished a tournament, shoot a day without having it on. And I always tell everyone, I'm like, that's my backup.
Oh, yeah.
Because for me, dude, I don't care what turn, like if anything ever gets brought up, hey man,
check it out.
Let's go. I got it all right here. What you want to go? Because when I say I have every single tournament day for the last 4 years, every practice day, it's all on there. You want to go check something out? Be my guest. So, I mean, it is. And I always tell everyone it keeps you out of trouble. It is. It's like my backup it's kind of like, I guess, how cops wear theirs, and maybe that's not a great example all the time, but it does, whatever. Yeah, I'm just telling you, like, it's what I want, because like, no matter what goes down, they don't have to take my word for it or nothing. It's right there. And so, whatever it is, like anyone, if anyone ever got accused of cheating, I'm not saying they'd ever have to do it, but they could just go up to the tournament director and be like, here's 10 hours of my day, go through it. Yeah. You can still watch every single fish catch I got. I'm not saying you still couldn't have cheated in other ways of information, but I'm just telling you, man, that's, I got it all. And so in case anything ever went down, we almost, in the Texas team trail last year, we came through weigh-in like 9 minutes early. And when we got to get our checks, instead of coming to like whatever place, they had us at 18. It had us a pound less than what we had. And I was going, whoa. Because they were reading out checks and handing them out. And we're like, we're going to be right here. They didn't call our name. And it went down and down and down. And I was like, well, why did we have 17 pounds? We had 18 pounds. Why is there a pound off? And I had my everything, and I called them up. I'm like, something's not right. And they're like, oh, you were a minute late. I'm like, no, I wasn't. What do you mean a minute? Well, I was like, it was kind of funny. We talked about the fact that we were 9 minutes. It was real rough that day. Mm-hmm. And me and Russell came in. We were worried about getting back in time. I was like, we actually showed up like 9 minutes early, and we are like, what are we going to do for the next, like, let's just go weigh him in. And now luckily the guys behind us, we knew them. So like, and we kind of like said something to them as we came through the weighing line. So they knew whatever. So we called them up. I'm like, hey, when was your check-in time? Yeah. Hey, if the tournament director calls you, we went through all this trouble. Like if they have to call you, like let them know that we were in front of you and y'all waited 9 minutes early. So this goes on, and I'm calling the tournament director, and I'm like, I got all my footage too, by the way. You can see the times, you can hear us say it and all this stuff. So I was ready to go down, but they ended up calling everyone up. They called the people that were behind and got confirmation and whatever. But yeah, I was ready to go.
Yeah, gotta have that stuff. And it just, I don't know, it helps me watching it, like knowing what I did wrong if I lose a fish and do all that, or run water with people.
Have you know how you picture stuff back in your head of how things happen?
Yeah, then you watch and you're like,
how many times have you like, man, I threw right back in there and caught one?
No,
and it's like 3 or 4 casts later.
Like yes, like that is funny. The first cast deal on Kentucky, I was like, did I catch that first cast? And then I went and watched my footage, like drop the trolling motor, first cast, caught it. Because sometimes I think I catch one first cast, it's like 2 or 3 casts in or something like that. Back to back, and it's like, yeah.
I will admit that there's a lot of times I'm thinking I catch one like back to back or something, or it feels like it was right away. I'm like watching, I'm like, God, like 4 casts later.
Yeah.
But I really thought it was like the next cast or something. I know where I get. So I don't ever I don't loop mine.
That's what I just
hit record.
Yeah.
And someone's like, how do you know? I'm like, LBJ, I will admit, I asked Russell, I went back and looked at most of the footage when I was doing it all, just to make sure it was all there. And I kind of went back through some things. I'm like, I don't remember Russell. It's different when Russell catches one, because sometimes I don't remember every time. If Russell caught like a 2-pounder somewhere that we didn't cull, I kind of forgot. Because someone was like, how many fish did y'all catch? And I'm like, I don't know, like 15. And I started watching it back, and I'm like, oh, we caught way more than that.
Yeah.
But it was just funny how some of them I forget, but none of mine I forget. So like to this day, I could go back through every day in practice and every turn, and I could tell you like the exact cast I catch it on.
Yeah.
Like I've always been able to do that.
Yeah.
But I can't always remember Russell's if we didn't use his. But that's how I go back through there and get it all.
Yeah. Usually like during the event, like I like walk by the camera and like do something, so when I'm scanning through, I can find it real quick.
Yeah, I don't even do that. I just kind of like do whatever. I will say at the only time I probably should have used it more was when I fished Gunnersville in the championship. On day 1, I got so much into practice mode after I caught them that I was fishing all new stuff. And as I was fishing, I wasn't really concerned about where I got bit in these boat docks. There'd be like 4 boat docks in a pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember going through them all. And so the next day, as I'm going through and I fish, there was this one place where I caught a big one on day 1. I didn't really pay attention to where it was, which boat dock it was. Like the day 1 was like such a blur. I was just like catching fish, and it was awesome and whatever. And then day 2, I think I lose a big one, or I miss one, or it breaks, whatever. And on day 3, I know that's the one that has a picture of me underneath the boat dock trying to get this big one.
Yeah.
And what pissed me off is I never paid attention to that boat dock, which one it was, until day 3, and until after it had happened. But they had these crossbars on the side of that boat dock.
Oh, you could have been like on the other side or something.
I could have just flipped in the front of it.
Yeah, different angle. Yeah.
And not have
here.
Oh, and I was
learning the hard way, and you're like, and then you know from there. But yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, that's that same boat. It didn't register. Like I said, since I didn't practice them, and day 1 was, and I was like, you dummy. Like the other ones, all the other ones I kind of remembered, but it was later on. For whatever reason, it was just that one. But I never and I was so focused on like making the same flip because the day before and day one, I remember all this. On day one, when I flipped in there, these were docks I'd never seen before. I flipped in there and I brought it up over that beam. The beam was only about that far into the water, the 2x4. And when I did, I see this like 2 fish do this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I flip back in there like 5 times. And every time I pop, I'd shake it down there, nothing. And then when I'd pop it up over, I'd see them do this, but they wouldn't eat it. And then like the 5th time, same spot, I hopped it up over and I see my line swim off. And I set the hook and it was like a 5 something. So I got it on this side of the bar, right? So I was just all jacked up that I'm like, thank goodness a big one ate it, not some of them 2 and 3 pounders. And so the next day, whatever, well, day 3, I'm just so focused about like, watch me flip over that bar, watch me flip over that 2x4. And not thinking that what happens if it bites on the other side of it? Because like it didn't happen today, you know? And when I lose that big one, like I stick her and she's on there and I see her and I go in there after, you know, but my line got hung up on a screw is what happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, I could have just gone to the front of that thing and flipped right up and in there, mate. And good chance I'd have caught the same fish.
Yeah, probably. Do yeah, I do that here a lot. Like,
freaking idiot.
Yeah, it happens.
So do you go back and dice? Yeah, like I guess that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I do.
What else? Like, what do you look for?
Dude, I just like I look more when I mess up. That's what like. Dude, day one I lost like Kentucky. I lost like 3, and I was like, why did I lose? I was just thinking I broke 2 off, which you know we break fish off sometimes. But I broke 2 off, and I'm like, man, why did I break these fish off?
Like spinning rod?
Yeah, and I was looking at the footage, and one pulled off, 2 broke off, and I was like, why did it? And then it kind of clicked. I was like, okay, like it's windy. I was a little further away from the stump, and the bed was like usually the bed was on the downside of the current, so you know it'd be protected. Well, we had like a north wind, so it would put you on that opposite side, and I think my line was just getting frayed, like
yeah.
Going over the stump more. So I was like, all right, so day 2, I got closer on them. So my line wouldn't get over and I never lost one. Cause you know, we all break fish off, but when you break them off kind of nothing, like why?
I look at, so I think, and I've done videos on this and I think it's like the number one, I think it's not even close. I think it's the number one mistake fishermen do of why they lose fish. I get weird questions about hooks and all these things, and I'm like, yeah, look, man, I think everyone uses
a good,
the wrong rod. I think rods are what most people's rods to / hook sets, and then how you combine all that together. So, like in my opinion, every single time, not every single time, but I think if you're losing fish, it's 90% your rod, 90% your hook set. One of the two, or the combination of both, and that's what it is. Because I think you can go 100 for 100 with the right if everything goes right. Now, there's times you get up there and catch your hook gets just a slither of skin way inside the mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times you got a frogfish like down here and it's on like the skin and you can just pop it out?
Dude, I got pictures of hooks, like the hook's in the mouth and the barb's not even in. Like the barb's on it, and I still get them in the boat.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I hooked a sight fish the other day and like there was a hole in its mouth. I think it was on fork, and there was a hole in its mouth from like where I caught that real sensitive part, like right on the upper lip that has that just skin. It just created a big hole. I got it in because the pressure, you know, as long as you can put a hole there, and as long as it's in there,
and holding it the way,
and you never lose tension on it, you're going to get it. But what I see with co-anglers, 90% of the time, I'll see them set the hook, and I just see their rod, and it's already too flimsy of a rod. Because I think almost everyone fishes with too flimsy of a rod, and I see the rod kind of go boop, just like that.
Oh, you see the slide, not the pressure.
Well, it goes, but their rod, like if I just grabbed their line on their rod and just went like that, their rod would like do this, and I'm like, well, you set the hook And as tension got to where the hook's supposed to penetrate, your rod is now bending on that tension. Well, I don't want my rod to bend on the tension. I want my rod to like, it better drive through like everyone. And it's funny, all these guys are on here talking about, hey Todd, get a cordless torque wrench, 40, whatever they're talking about, 40 pounds of pressure, all that stuff. You need that pressure. I want my rod to bend with us only at a certain amount of pressure. That pressure has to first drive the hook in there. And so what I see people do is they have, and I always talk about this, and I'm going to bring this up. And there's one fish I lost in the video, just one. I don't mind losing that one. It wasn't a fish worth keeping. There's a reason I lost it, and it's because of the rod I had. But it wasn't big. I'm like, I don't worry about those kind of fish. That's what should happen on that fish. Didn't lose it on all the big ones because that's what I'm set up to go catch. I don't care about a 2-pounder over here. I could catch a bunch of 2-pounders on. I caught a 10-inch or 2 on the rod, but I'm more apt to lose a small one than a big one because I have a rod built to land the bigger ones and to set the hook on the bigger ones, not the small ones. So, here's and so I like to hear what you think about this.
Yeah, I mean,
you?
Man, it's funny. I tie 2 knots. I tie, like, if I'm hitting them, I do a polymer. Like if I'm like worm fishing, flipping, hitting, I'm gonna do a polymer. But if I'm just like reeling, like a crankbait or a thunder crick or something, like I just do this little knot that like it holds, but like I'm never worried about it breaking and stuff. But like I do two different knots. So I'm hitting them, polymer. Everything else I'm reeling. I do this other knot.
Okay,
so
let me ask you.
I think it matters, yes. But honestly, if you got
when you broke your line the other day at Kentucky Lake,
there's no twig. It wasn't on the knot.
Went on the knot. That's my point. Is that I rarely break it on a knot. So it's usually something else. It's like old line. I hadn't retied. It's rarely if I tie my thing on this about knots is this. Sunline's done a thing where they've gone and tested the strongest knots, right, on fluorocarbon. I believe all those tests to be true. Perfect conditions, perfect people tying the knot, like it's a perfect knot situation, right? And what I mean by that is it hadn't been put in water, it hadn't been casted. They tie a perfect knot and then they put pressure to it. Okay. If that's off by a pound, at this knot stronger at a pound than this knot, whatever.
They're both good. Yeah.
If that knot though, you got to tie it a certain way and whatever, and this knot, and I tie it really good because I'm perfect with it. This knot's better than that knot because I tie it better. Mm-hmm. And so I think a perfectly tied knot, no matter what knot we use to a degree, is better if it's done right, rather than a knot over here that's stronger, supposedly stronger, and maybe it's not tied right. Or maybe you're kind of off with it. So my polymer knot, I've been doing it for 20 years. It's clean. It's perfect. I don't break off on knots. If I break off, it's usually a line where I'm like, oh man, I didn't think about that. Rock, boat dock, whatever it might be. I look at it more of that. So I look at it that way.
Yeah, like I said, I tie like if I'm hitting them polymer, because like the knot I tie for the reeling, if you hit them like super hard, like it like pulls out or something. But on the other stuff, it doesn't. But it's quicker and faster. And it's just more efficient for me. And like people always ask me like, when should I retie? I'm like, if you think you should retie, retie. If it crosses your mind, retie.
I'm world's worst about retying. But I use bigger line than everyone else. Always have.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, I based it off of this is I fished enough with other people in the boat my entire life, team tournaments, and then coiners. I was trying to calculate up how many coiners I've had in my boat. It has to be over 500. And I can't I would say 90% of the time, 99% of the time, I'm fishing line bigger than theirs. Everywhere I'm not talking about Texas. I can't tell you how many times when I fished the tour or Toyotas and we're on some crystal clear lake and guys are like, what pound test line is that? I'm like 18. They're like, I've got 10 on here. And I'm just smoking on them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, man, I get it. I'm not, I do line based on the bait, not based on clarity of water.
Yep.
So now don't get me wrong. I'm not going around throwing 25-pound test line in crystal clear water.
No, yeah, no.
But I will throw a Carolina rig with 25-pound test line in crystal clear water.
Yeah. Up north, I throw it on like 17 on a jig. And then like spinning rod up north, I've been getting like 12, 14 and been perfectly fine. Like no problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So I look at it that way so like I always threw, like I never went under 20 pounds forever. And then we started throwing like swim baits, like race swimmers on squadron heads and stuff. And guys were like, yeah, man, it's more about trying to keep the bait down there. And so then I started changing up rods. So, and I got to go here in a little bit, but this is the good stuff. So what do you think about lure specific rods? Which is a great question in my opinion. What do you think?
Yes and no. Like some stuff, like there's a rod, like you can do a 7.2 medium heavy and pretty much do almost anything. Like,
and I don't
tag line, whatever. But then, crankings, I like composite, and then big flipping stick. But I think I like both of them.
I almost never.
Yeah.
I almost like never go with what's on rod.
Yeah, like a lure specific rod, I'll throw 4 different other lures on that's not even made for it, and not even throw what is on.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like my topwater rods are always like, of course I got braid on there, so it's different. But I don't like. I've never thrown a frog on a frog rod because I have, and I've broke all of them, and then the other ones are sissy. They're sissified.
Yeah.
And they're not right. Now I know guys catch fish on them, but I think they're catching frogfish on like open water.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, come down here and throw that rod. And once again, and once again, you might catch 90% of them on open water, but then you throw it behind. I'll catch those same fish too. However, when I come in this situation, I got them in the boat.
Yeah.
Like because I had that rod, and then when they lose one, they're like, I lost a big one. And I'm like, it got me, whatever. And so like even like Russell this past weekend, we had one fish do a little something different, and we just sat there and like he played it all out, got it out, and I'm like, he's like, man, I was a little worried because I thought it might cut the line, but I mean, he had the right rod, everything worked out perfect. But yeah, I mean,
no, I think it's a yes and no. Like you can have a rod that's
it's just that the people at the rod company made it right.
Yeah, that too, big time, because you'll get some rod that's this specific. Like even rods are saying it's a heavy. Like some rods that say they're heavy. No. There's some rods that say they're medium heavy and they're heavy. It's just the rod manufacturer. But I think when you get into treble hooks and composite and glass, that's kind of your rod specific then,
Yeah. I know even when like with Lou's, like we all talk, but I can't throw I can't throw hardly any of some of the signature series rods by some of the guys because of the handle at the bottom. And then me and Hackney both talk about certain rods within Lou's as the ones we like. And I know it's all a preference. I'm not saying any of them are bad or worse. Like you got to realize too, some guy who's living up catching nothing but 2-pounders or 3-pounders, because that's what all he's got available to him.
Yeah.
A different rod than what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So you got to chance big one and cover sometimes.
well,
Too.
yeah, because like
Count
you
on
know,
that.
well, here's the deal. Where we live, a lot of our lakes. So I don't know how many they had. They had 4 or 5 9-pounders at LBJ weighed in.
Yeah, giants. Yeah, so you got to prepare for that one.
You've got to prepare. You will not win a tournament without that thing.
Yep, exactly. So you
So
got to prepare for
yeah, and I'm not saying you need a rod like this extra. I'm not talking about a heavy rod I'm just talking about you definitely can't get away with the same. You can listen. I can catch a 9-pounder on a Snoopy pole,
100%.
but chances are, how many of those are you going to lose too? And so I'm
big on it, but not too like it's.
Yeah, I could care less what it says.
Yes.
How about that? I don't care what it says. It can be it could be not a guess. It could be a good reference point.
Yeah.
But then I could pick it up and be like, nope.
Yeah, like there's a signature shooters rod, Marco's Carolina rig rod. Like, yeah, I throw Carolina rigs sometimes, but dude, that's probably my favorite swim bait rod. It is bad to the bone.
The 7.4 one?
Yes, and it's like heavy.
And see, I won't Carolina rig with a 7.4. I'm not going to Carolina rig with at least a 7.6. And so I made a video the other day about Carolina rigging when I caught that 11-pounder. And then I went out there and found another rod, used it, said, this is the right rod. Then I talked to John Bird and he was like, hey man, they're discontinuing that rod. I'm like, what? I just found it. He's like, don't worry, man. They put it in this series. And I'm like, send it to me. So he said, it's the exact same rod. It's just in a different series. And listen, they've done that with every rod company I've ever been in. If it's different by like 5%. Like none of us would ever know. And so, but yeah, like it's the Carolina rig rod. And now that's the only Carolina rig rod I've been using. And I love it. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
But it's not, I don't know what it might say flipping stick on there or something. I don't know what it says. But I'm like, I'm not gonna flip with it. I've got other rods that I flip with.
North of Champlain, and like my tackle changed up a little bit when I was flipping for largemouth, like in milfoil, because like the biggest you're gonna catch is maybe like you might like set 6 is like the biggest you're gonna catch, so you don't need like a big meat stick or worry about that.
You're right. I have one. I'm gonna talk to him. So like even this rod I use the entire time. Like there's one rod that's like my favorite rod ever. And I got Luz to make me one of them. And so now I got like 5 of them, but they don't make them. They just made them he just made them for me. And I don't have this big, and I don't know, maybe I should go to Luz and be like, hey, what do you think about making this rod? I don't want to be like, hey, yeah, I've never done that, but I'm like, I don't have this big name. So I'm like, and I don't want my name on it. Yeah. I just like put it in a series. I also don't know if I know people would buy it that watch. I'm like, I'm telling you, like, there's a reason I have like 8 of them. And I use it for I would use it for swim jigging, worming, throwing a jig, frog fishing, sight fishing. I've thrown spinner baits on it. I'll throw a wobble head on it. I can keep going.
No, yeah.
It is like, and it's for like throwing not a bigger bit. I mean, it's for sticking them. I mean, it's for like doing all that stuff. I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll come out with it, but if not, I'm just like, well, I feel kind of bad because like everyone always asks me about it, but I'm like, they don't really make it for. I guess I need to at least ask Luz. I can be like, hey, they said no. They said we're not going to make that rod. I'll bring that up the next meeting. You guys still fish again? Yeah, dude. I caught 11, 13 on it this year. Yeah. Not to mention about 300 other ones, but
yeah, I throw it up north all the time on the river. It's fun.
They want the wide spool back. Bunch of people want their wide.
Oh yeah, the speed spool, the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is like I could probably get Zona on board faster faster than I could get Hackney on board.
Yeah.
Maybe. Hackney throws a little bit different stuff than me, but his frog rod.
Yeah, I've noticed with his rods, the handle's really short.
Yeah.
But dude, I will say this on his like pitching stick, I got it, and I was weird about the handle being. I was like, man, but then I started using it, and I honestly felt like I'm more accurate with it. Like,
Right.
no joke, because that handle's smaller and you can be more accurate with it. So like I learned something there, you know.
I don't like. I've used that same rod. Like I can flip. I ain't worried about that. I do the same thing with that one rod. I don't care. I can do like it's not a big deal.
But,
oh my gosh, I got to start answering all these phone calls. I got some. I'll talk to you about it later. I got some pretty cool news.
sick.
Thanks for showing
dude,
up.
Me on again. This is fun.
All right. Hold around. I'll holler at you in a second, man. I'm glad all these guys stayed on, listened to us talk about whatever we talked about today.
Right.
All right.
Later.
See ya. Hold on.